What's up? Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Tackle Shop Live.
A sunny day, right there you took my breath away. A young and pretty, was it just a dream? The next day you called me up, you told me I'm your little buttercup. You came over and you fell into my arms.
Wow.
Well, I know what
Man, did we ever just have a
freaking
cluster if you ever seen it?
You make me smile when I think of you.
I'm telling you guys right now, it's going to happen. It's going to happen here on Tackle Shop Live. Man, oh man. Charlie Esterly's in the house. James Hook, what is up? Yes, go time, baby. Right on. Matthew, how you doing, Matthew? Keith Carey. Good to see you, Keith. Conway Hayden. How's everybody going? Johnny Kopp's in the house. What's up, Johnny? Man, we just had a power outage at 3 minutes till 7. All the power just shut off.
They knew I was showing up. They knew I was showing up.
Yeah, that's what it happens. It always happens when we have special guests on. It always happens. And man, it's always a challenge here on Tackle Shop Live. But we always come live, though. We always do.
Mike was ready to fire it up in the parking lot. You should have seen him out there. It was crazy. And then all of a sudden, boom, the lights came back on.
I had cords stretched out to the parking lot. We were going to do an outdoor live, but we got her running now. Hope everybody can hear us okay. What's up, George Dufresne? How you doing? Jeff Riddle, what's happening? My name is Mike Acord. This is George Acord, and special guest in the house, Kurt Dove.
Yeah.
All the way from Texas.
Yes.
Man, we appreciate you, Kurt, for stopping in.
Absolutely. I appreciate y'all having me.
Yeah, boy, I tell you, that's he called us up the other week and said, hey, I'll be in town, man. You want to do the show? And I'm like, yeah, I'll send you the link. He said, no.
I'll be there.
I'm coming. I'm coming
person.
live in person. So
I like
thank you so much for doing that for us, brother. It's so awesome.
Absolutely.
But yeah, here we are. So we're on. We're late. Sorry about that. Power's back on. We're back on. And we're going to get our show started here. A couple of quick things. This weekend down on the Chesapeake Bay is the memorial tournament for Ronald Toot Lutz. Everybody knows him as Toot. But Ron Lutz passed away a couple of weeks ago, and we're going to do a benefit tournament for his family this weekend, Sunday. Anchor Marine, Chesapeake Bay, Upper Chesapeake Bay, on fire right now. They're catching the hell out of fish. You've been there.
I have been there. I've been there at good times. I've been there at tough times.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear it's a good time right now.
Well, it's supposed to be tough, but the fish are biting like crazy. So.
Well, it's probably all that water run. When I was driving here, I saw that water running down the Sesqui, and I was like, man, I think they're biting at the bay. They got fresh water flowing in.
They got a lot of water running down there. Plus, the bait's all pushed up because of the salt line. It has them all pushed up, and it's good fishing. So here's a great opportunity for you to come down to the tournament. I'm going to be there for the weigh-in, doing the MC-in, and I'll make you famous. You know me. So we'll have that going on, and they're doing 50-50 drawings. They're having a big raffle there. You can buy tickets for the raffle. There's tons of stuff they're giving away. It's for a really good cause. Ron Lutz has been in the tournament community for years and years and years. Decades. And he has done so much for so many people.
Heavy on the youth.
But he just, whatever it is, I was talking to one of his friends tonight, and he was telling me Tut lived at Red Point. So I can't tell you how many times those guys made a call to Tut. Hey, we got a broken down boat. Can you come out and get us?
Wow.
And he, all right, I'll be right out. And he'll go out and he'll drag them into their boat ramp, and then the guys would come around and pick up their stuff. He was just that kind of guy. No matter what you said or what you asked, he was there to do it.
He did. I remember a BFL super tournament down there, and we were shooting the breeze in here, and he's like, "Oh, I'm out of town that weekend. You can have my house."
Wow.
I'm like, what? No. He goes, no, stay at the house. I'll be offended if you don't. So we went down, stayed at his house. We had our own boat ramp right there. I mean, the guy was just over the top great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good people.
So that tournament's
to
going
lose a guy like that.
yeah, it
Yeah.
is. It's terrible to have that happen. So that tournament's going to be safe light to 2:00. And then we're going to do the drawings and stuff after that. So if you do have time, if you can swing it, please come down. Please come to the tournament. It would be a great honor to have you there, and you're going to be honoring just a great guy. So hope to see you there. Okay, so we're going to get the show going right away because we're a little late, and
we are. Yeah, we are.
Yeah, so this is Tackle Shop Live. As always, we're here on Thursday nights at 7:00, and tonight we're going to kick it off with.
You took my breath away.
Tonight we're going to kick it off with a little tackle talk, and that's what we like to do is talk tackle.
I love the music.
You should put some labels on your buttons. And basically,
No, I hit that out of excitement. I was rolling it. You know,
basically you have
I'm breaking down sweat. The sweat's running in my eyes
Because you've been running around the parking lot.
and you know, I couldn't see quite 100%.
We didn't have a cool down period.
You didn't have a cool down.
No.
My beer's empty, so
I mean, we were literally plugging the last wire in.
yeah.
And somebody said, hey, go in there and get something. So I said, oh, I'll go. And I grabbed a hold of the door and the lights came on.
Yeah.
I said, a little power's back.
Yeah.
On tear everything down out here now.
Let's hope it stays on.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I know.
Exactly. So like I said, we're fortunate to have Kurt Dove in the house, and Kurt is national sales manager for
General manager
of
sales.
general manager of Hayabusa, and they also distribute Reins.
Yeah,
throughout the
Hayabusa
country.
actually owns the Reins brand.
Oh, they do
Yeah.
own the Reins
Oh.
brand. All right, I didn't know that.
Yeah, in January of 2019,
Ah,
Hayabusa Japan bought Reins, and there was still a distribution agreement at that time that ran through 2021. And so we actually started Hayabusa USA started distributing Reins in the United States, now a brand that they owned once that distribution agreement concluded, which was 2022. So
It's great for us, man. It's one more little streamlined ordering process. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
Yeah,
it makes it nice. So Kurt heads that up. So we've known Kurt since
Eons.
For
forever.
a long time.
Yeah, a long time ago. He used to live in Virginia.
What year did y'all open the shop?
We opened
89.
it in 89.
89.
Yeah, but I think we've met you in
It was
in
early 2000s.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say 2003, 2004 at the Timonium
Yes.
Bass Expo.
Yes.
That's
yeah.
where we first met,
Yep.
and then we got to be buddies there. And
What year were you fishing the elites?
I fished the elites for 6 years,
What was your first? What was your
yeah,
first?
so it was 06, 7, and 8 was my
Yeah,
first.
yeah.
So we would have been knowing you since before that.
Yes. Yes.
That's
Yeah.
a while.
I was trying to think. Of
I
that.
started doing that boat show stuff around 01. So I think you hit it right. on the
Yeah,
head.
yeah. I think it was early
Yeah.
2000s,
Yeah.
3, 4, somewhere right around there. When we got to know you and started following your career, and so a lot has changed over the years, and tackle has changed a lot,
Yes.
right?
Tremendously.
And-
Radically.
And now you're working in the tackle business, which is really cool.
Yes. Yeah.
You live in Del Rio, Texas.
Yep. Right on the shores of Lake Amistad.
Right on the shores of Lake Amistad. And
Well, not to mention, you're not far from Falcon.
No, well, it's about 4 hours.
Is it really?
Texas is huge.
Texas is big.
Yeah, it's big.
Yeah,
It is.
you guys should
I'm
sell
8
some of that
hours
off or
from
something,
Dallas
man.
and 4 hours from Falcon. So, and that doesn't even hit
8
the
hours
border.
from Dallas.
Oh yeah.
God,
8
we
hours.
could be all the way across our state.
Is
in
it
4 hours.
is it true that everyone that lives in West Texas has to run a dually pickup truck?
Yep, that's why I got one.
Is that I mean, you can't live in West Texas without.
There's a
one.
lot of dualies out there. A lot of ranching going on in West Texas.
What do we want to talk about with tackle, George?
Oh boy.
I'm gonna go dry myself off. I'm sweating profusely.
Well, yeah,
And you need to get another beer. That's right.
yeah, and a fan.
How about today's Elite Series event?
Oh, I mean,
Did you watch closely?
I watched every second of it. I actually started at 7 o'clock. I actually watched Blast Off. I'm a
That's awesome.
I don't miss any of it, bro.
That's outstanding.
I don't miss any of
They
it.
do that via IG, so you have to actually flip from Instagram to live when they finally start it. Right?
Yeah. So what I do is I go on to their website, and they have it hidden really good. But if you go to like the little, I call it the hamburger symbol that gives you the drop down menu.
Right.
I think theirs is like 3 dots. They'll be like hidden down in their live mix.
Oh, okay.
And you can click on that.
And the cameras are already rolling.
Well, it starts at 7 at this tournament. And at 8 o'clock, it'll keep doing live mix all day. But at 8 o'clock, you can switch over to
The show.
the regular show, which I like to. I'm a big Zona fan.
Okay.
And I like the guys in the
Ronnie, Tommy,
yeah,
Dave, the whole crew.
Yeah, they get a little worried sometimes, but that's okay. They're doing an awesome job, and you know what? That's how they do it.
How about your boy, De Palma? De Palma stroked him today. Top 10 on the day one.
We are so excited, man.
He's due.
All day long, we were just jumping up and down, and then I forget what time it was. Boom, he whacks a big 4-pounder, and all of a sudden, poop, he's in 5th place on the standings. We're like,
Right.
yeah, so real exciting. He called on Monday, and he was running out of tackle, so we had to send in some tackle up there. And
I'm catching 2 men.
Yeah, he's like,
baby.
yeah, he said,
That Mike will do it to you.
Oh yeah.
he said, I don't know, man. I went out to my grass bed that I always check, and he said I got one way outside edge of it, and he said I dropped down, and I said it was 4-pounders in every cast, so I left right away. So he's excited about that. So
he showed it today.
Well, and we had Brian Schmidt on. We're big Brian Schmidt fans here.
Yeah,
I know you sponsor him. You're a huge fan.
I'm a
of
Schmidt
his.
fan.
Yeah,
we're big Brian Schmidt fans, and he was
stroking him.
That cameraman was busy this morning.
He was on live all day, and I was peeled to it pretty closely as well.
And he cracked him.
He did. He caught a lot of fish.
Yeah.
Caught a lot of fish. Never really, a lot of times you'll see in that 21, 22 pound bag, you got to get that 5-pounder in Champlain, which is a tough bite to get.
Yeah.
And he ended with 20 something today, which put him in top 20, 16th, I think.
Brian's a little different.
He's just out of the cut. He's like 12th, 13th,
okay,
14th, right in there. Yeah.
He's in 16th with 20 pound 4 ounce.
Oh wow.
Brian to me is different than every other Elite Series pro.
All right, you explain.
He is a lifetime fisherman.
Yes,
I mean he's always been a bass tournament guy.
Yeah,
but when he's not bass tournament fishing, the only other guy that's like him is Adrian Avina.
Yep.
When he's not bass tournament fishing, he's chartering.
Yes,
and he charters from sometime in April. If the DNR, deems it fit.
Depending on the striper regulations.
If the DNR allows the striper guys to go out and catch a few fish and not just save them all for the commercial guys.
Right.
That's a different story. But he fishes until December 31st when the season ends, or whenever, in that 20th to 31st when they call the season. He fishes every day.
He's after it.
So he's Avina's like that. Those guys are like fishermen, professional fishermen. I mean, bass guys are all professional bass guys. These guys are professional.
They got another sense to their.
Unbelievable.
If you look at like Brian, he fishes for stripers, he fishes for cobia, he dabbles in big redfish.
Yeah,
all in the Middle Bay. Every day, you got to stay on them. They're moving. You got to find them. You got to relocate them. So you have that. It's another sense. And if you watched him on live this morning, he pulled up on his first spot and they weren't there. I watched it and they weren't there. And he put that trolling motor on high and his foot pedal was going. His trolling motor was doing this.
He was looking.
He wasn't. I mean, he was on high going towards the shore and driving like this. And he said, "Oh, wait a minute. I don't know if you can see that slick spot up there, but that might be oil coming off a school of bait that's getting tore up by some smallies." That little patch up there. Sure enough, he got up there and just started catching fish on every cast. He goes, here they are.
That's just knowledge, coming where he's from in the Chesapeake Bay, the fish are always constantly moving. So he is constantly always adjusting to find the fish. So that's just second nature to him.
And when those stripers get on, like, when they get on like you know, Menhaden bunker, you know, that kind of fish. And they're just down there, just devastating the school of them.
Yeah.
And it's rough out. There'll be a slick spot.
You can see it from a while away.
Out there. And that's the oils off those fish.
Yeah.
You know, and they
Been
just
feeding on 'em.
slicked out.
Yeah.
So he knows to look for all that stuff, you know, all the subtleties. That's what, you know, a guy like that, you know, that's seasoned fisherman,
Yes.
a true fisherman.
So he's got a different, he's
does.
got a different gear that he
Yeah.
can grab.
Yeah.
Where he knows, hey, I'm good. I'm good.
I think the wind hurt him on some areas today. He talked about that a little bit, and it'll be interesting to see who out of those. There were 17 bags over 20 pounds today.
Yeah, for
who
sure.
out of those 17 anglers can be consistent and keep that 20-pound average rolling? That's going to be the key.
Absolutely.
Everybody thinks 80 is going to win. Huff, what a bag,
Uh-huh.
leading it with 23.
23. That's a crazy bag. Do you have any largemouth in there?
No, I
Those
saw
all
all
smallies.
smallies. Yeah,
Yeah.
he did weigh a big one. I think it was 5'3".
Yeah, he took
That
Lunker
was
for
big.
the day.
Yeah, that was
Yep.
big fish.
And you
for
think
the
about it,
day.
he had 5'3", but he had 23 and change. So he had like all high
fours.
Yeah.
He's on a big school.
Yeah.
You know who really surprised me? Brandon Palaniuk.
Yeah, he had 13 pounds.
Yeah, he's really good up there.
You know who else was surprised by that?
Brandon Palaniuk.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, because that guy's always solid up there. He's like one of them other guys you got to really watch up
I
there.
watched him weigh in, and he said, yeah,
He didn't know what would hit,
Like-
hit him.
I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
You know? But he
Yep.
said tomorrow, he's like, I know what's going to happen.
Right on.
So, you know,
Well, we got a fan here for not a fan, but somebody that knows Kurt Zeth Kennett Fishing.
What's up, Zach?
Yeah.
How's it going?
He's saying what's up to you, and he wants a Susquehanna in Cali. Susquehanna fishing tackle in Cali.
There you go.
We'd love to put one in out there, buddy.
well, Zeth was in the shop here
Recently.
about a year ago or 2 years ago,
All right.
and he's been shopping with us ever since. We
Awesome.
appreciate you, Zeth. Did you get your rod yet? That's what I want to know.
It's in the mail. It's in the mail on the way to you, bro.
It's
So
a long way to
One
California.
more thing about the Elite Series today. I got to mention this.
Mhm.
And Iaconelli struggled today.
Did he?
He did. He had 11 pounds.
Because he's a
Champlain.
he's
guru.
a Champlain guru.
But you could see the fire in his eyes. He didn't talk on stage. He
Yeah.
said,
There's going to be
I
trouble
love you
tomorrow.
all. And that was it.
yeah, he's pissed.
He's coming.
There's going to be
Yeah.
trouble tomorrow.
He's coming.
I wouldn't want to be a smallmouth tomorrow.
It would not.
And he's the kind of guy that can go out there and do it too. You know,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, he can just like turn everything around and put 22 pounds.
he will do something completely different than what he did.
and then he'll make the cut, and then he'll put another 22 pounds in there and be right at the 10. Right,
If he makes the
11,
cut,
12.
he'd be a strong day if he makes the cut tomorrow.
Yeah.
You probably need 24.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough.
Well, when you have weather, that's somewhat of an equalizer, and you can have people. There will be people that
Flop.
make this cut that had a very subpar day today,
That's true.
and the equalizer is this wind, because a big lake like that, it's kind of like being on Lake Erie. You know,
Yeah.
when it blows up, tomorrow's going to be
stays there for a while.
tomorrow's going to be rough, even if the wind's not blowing.
Yeah.
It's going to take the whole day for that swell to subside.
Well, that's what they're saying. It's supposed to get windier this evening. It's supposed to calm down a little bit by the morning, but you're gonna have that you're like a reverb.
Yeah, you have
That-
that residual for,
Yes.
for
And-
until like 11 o'clock.
And that,
then
as
it'll-
deep as that lake is, that
Holds.
lake is that's a different kind of rough water animal,
it's
man.
a beast, man.
I've tasted it. I've been there.
You drank it.
I've danced with the devil on that
The
lake.
devil, I was
man.
going to say the devil and you had a little
You
spin
know,
around.
and
a
I don't
couple times.
care. You know, me and Kurt were talking earlier. You know, north is better if you're coming out of Plattsburgh than
It doesn't
south.
matter up there,
Right,
man.
right.
But you know what?
It's all big
There's
water.
there's going to be a 7 or to 10 mile stretch in your future
That's
that
gonna hurt.
is really bad.
The lake's 135 miles long.
You know,
Yeah,
you know what
it's
the key
huge.
is there though, guys. And I'll tell you who said it best was today was Whiskey Myers guy.
Lee Livesey.
Lee Livesey said it best. He goes, I left myself enough time that I didn't have to rush to get back in.
Yeah.
And because I didn't want to spend the whole night fixing
Yeah.
trolling motors and graphs.
Yeah.
And that's just it. If you're not if you're not totally pressured to the minute, you can take an extra 10 or 15 minutes. 10 or 15 minutes
Yeah, you can back
is
off
a
a little
long time.
Yeah.
You can drive totally different.
And not only that, if you do make better time than you anticipate on a lake like Champlain, there's 900 spots you can stop and catch one. And you know what Lee Livesey did today? That.
He stopped.
He had a
4.5
mediocre
hours.
bag.
Yeah.
He had a mediocre bag, and he said, you know, I left myself some comfort zone. Said I had enough time to stop in a little spot, called a 4.5-pound largemouth, and I went from mediocre to not too bad.
Yeah.
And he said it was
Go
all
from 16 to 18.
It's all mindset.
Night and day.
It's a mindset thing. You know, and that lake right there, yeah, you don't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to do anything.
So for
stupid
everybody
there.
coming in a little late here, thanks for stopping by. We have special guest Kurt Dove in the house from Hayabusa.
Howdy.
And Kurt's going to talk about Hayabusa and Reins, and then we're going to get into some technique on some summertime fishing with that.
We're going to get into some of his sneaky tactics.
Yeah, we are for sure.
We have a little list
I
of
don't know if
questions.
they're real sneaky.
We have a little list of questions
Yeah.
here for Kurt.
They're
And,
fundamentally sound.
Yeah.
Kurt's going to have to make a decision at some point tonight on answering some of these questions
Yeah.
because he could be giving away
Well,
valuable data.
it's these hammers, you know, when you get them, you gotta pick their brains. You know, you gotta figure out what makes them tick.
And it's fun.
We got some cool stuff to show, some things to talk about. So it'll be fun to dive.
And we're going to
into that.
preview a couple of the new baits that are coming to SFT
Okay.
Yeah.
from Reins. We'll do that a little later
Cool.
on.
I like it.
Matter of fact, we can tie that into the back of our little tackle talk segment.
All right.
Yeah.
So without further ado, Mike, if you can hit the right button.
All right. I did it once. Let's see if I can do it again. Here we go. This is called Tackle Talk.
Very good, Mike.
Well, we got a great house full tonight. Michael Bradley's here. Southern Jersey fisherman never misses. He's always here. Ed M's here as always.
Southern Jersey fisherman is hardcore.
They are.
No, I mean this guy.
They're,
This particular Southern Jersey, not Southern Jersey fisherman,
yeah.
Southern Jersey fisherman.
Yeah, but what I like about
dude
these
is
guys,
hardcore.
what I like about these guys is they get together on here, and there's a couple of them, and they just dig his stuff and they grind it all out, and they have their own little conversation going on, which I love about different stuff, and it's always good to see you guys here. And here's another one. Jeff Reed's always here. Good evening to you too, buddy. Jimmy Arnold's in the house, and Amy Lynn Brown. How are you doing?
Fantastic.
So what we got, George? Let's talk about some tackle.
I got
love
some cool
tackle.
toys this week. So first of all, the new Shimano Stratics have begun showing up.
Mm.
Check that bad boy out.
Dude, I'm telling
Check
you.
that bad boy out.
Very nice.
They've started to show up. So it's the next generation of Stratic. And if you follow your reels,
Look at that thing.
oh yeah,
Doesn't stop.
no,
Just one little turn.
it's good stuff. If you follow your reels from most manufacturers, you know, like they'll do a letter at the end or a number at the end. This is a M. So you're up on your M now from the original Stratic. And basically, you're going to need them both, Mike. Basically, we're getting to the point with Stratic that the changes are very minor because the micro module gear is, it's as close to a sustain as possible. The pinion gear, same thing. The drag washers, same thing. You know, long ago, we've gone to that rotation that Kurt showed there. You know, that G-free body, moving that gearbox up in the bottom. It's got all that. And there's even some more like super minor refinements to this version. And the price went up $10 on the 2,500, the 3,000, the 4,000, and the 5,000. The 1,000 stayed the same. So, I mean, if you're going to spend $199, I'm pretty sure 209 or 219 is not going to stop you. 209 for the 25, 219 for the 3,000. If you're spending $199, you're going to spend $209. If you're spending $209, you're going to spend $219. These things are awesome.
It feels $250.
It does.
It feels $250.
It feels like a sustain.
Well,
you got
a lot of times when you start winding, you'll feel a slight vibration here. There is zero wobble in this thing. I mean,
That's what they call the G-free body.
G-free.
So the gear case is as high up in the center of the body as possible. But check this out. This is the most important feature on this reel. That black piece of soft plastic under the line roller.
Oh, yeah.
So you can move it. Touch it with your finger. It'll bend a little bit. It'll flex a little bit.
I feel it.
That's the most important advancement on this Stratic. And I'm being serious.
It keeps your line from sliding out.
It's an anti-twist fin. So if you now this doesn't affect your braid. This feature is worthless for braid. It doesn't hurt it. It doesn't help it.
Gotcha.
But fluorocarbon, mono, copolymer, stuff that's subject to twisting through use. Not by putting it on wrong, but, winding in a drop shot rig. Something that's off-centered like that. That's an extreme case. This right here actually will contact the line just enough to wash a few of those twists out. And it works.
It's almost like if you were to pinch it when you're winding in to keep it from
how it would kind of do that?
Yes.
This is kind of doing that.
Gotcha.
And this is a top-down thing that came down from some of their bigger saltwater where the line's thicker. You'll notice that's pretty tight there.
Yes.
If you look at that corner,
it's
pretty
just a
tight.
squeeze.
Yeah, the line has to click through there. So that is Stratic FM.
all the pictures that you probably saw pre-release showed it as a white reel.
Yeah, well,
because the picture was
bad,
and everybody's like, "Oh man, they're coming back out with white again."
Because they used to have the Stratic
right,
white.
right. And I'm not kidding you. All the pictures were
like the early.
It looked like white,
like the early release pictures that Shimano took.
Yeah,
I guess I don't know, man.
Somebody didn't check it.
Somebody did something wrong.
Everybody's like, "Oh man, they're going to white again."
White. And it really looked white with the glare that was
It
on.
really did, but it's not silver. It's silver.
Looks good.
So that's a Stratic.
I like the paddle handle too, by the way.
So some
that
you
comes on the 3000. No, that's a 2500.
Okay,
that's called the I.
The I.
This is the T. This comes on the 3000.
Gotcha.
You like that? You like which one?
I like the 3000. I like the T. I like the bigger one, but even with the 2500, I like that it's not round.
Yeah, exactly.
Because when I go to grab it, I want to be able to pinch it, and you can't pinch a round one. But that's just my personal preference.
Yeah.
So the only difference between a 2500 and a 3000 is there's a couple. One is the handle. Okay. The other one is the depth of spool. So the depth of the spool on the 3000 is a little deeper, so you can hold a little bit more capacity, because there's a lot of people that use this in saltwater fishing.
Right.
A lot of your back bay guys will use a 3000, so they get a little bit more capacity on there.
Same body.
And the third thing is, same body, same everything else is pretty much the same. And the third thing is the drag system. On the 2500, they use the I guess a standard drag,
oiled felt,
because on a 2500,
that's the smoothest that there is.
That's the smoothest there is, and it starts at a lighter weight. So for bass fishermen and some of this lighter stuff where you want that to start real smooth and a light touch,
tension. Yeah, right.
That reel is better for that type of stuff, light line fishing. The 3000 has the carbon fiber or carbon washer. Okay. And then that one's made for, more durability, more scream in the drag, so they say it's a little bit different in the start.
Which makes sense. 2500, maybe you're using some 468.
Yeah.
And the 3000, some 8, 10, 12.
Exactly.
Yeah. Where there's been some problems is when you get the guys that like to take a 2500 out into the ocean and fish for fish that, you can land on a 2500, but if they make one of those runs that they're capable of, I mean, we've had guys catch 45-pound stripers on 2500s.
Yeah.
And the felt washer actually balled up because it spun so fast.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like taking a knife to a gunfight, but guys like that. So
I can understand it's a challenge. It's part of the challenge.
And my recommendation is go to the 3000.
You got a kayak out there in the ocean catching big tuna. The same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Towing you around everywhere
for days. So my recommendation is go 3,000. You got the same exact size reel.
Yeah.
Same gear ratio.
But now you got the drag.
Carbon washer
drag to handle that heat and handle that burn. And that's why they put it on the 3,000.
The other thing I would tell people out there when you're making your own decision on reels, check and I mean, not just Shimano, but check, obviously we're talking about Shimano here, but check your favorite brand. And when they have 2,500s and 3,000s, quite often the gear ratios are different.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want a faster gear ratio, you want to look at gear ratio and you want to look at inches of line per take up. Because if you have a bigger diameter spool that spins a little slower, you're probably retrieving more line per crank than the faster reel on the smaller spool.
Gotcha.
So you can go on any good, if you're on sfttackle.com, at the bottom of every page, we have like a matrix type chart that'll give you all that for every reel. So
I know you guys get the Shimano stuff before 99% of the other people in the world.
That's right.
How many shops would you say has this right now?
It's starting to get around a little bit.
Not many.
No, I would say not many.
It's not many.
I mean, I'd say this is like,
there's a couple, but
if you're into it, get it.
There's a couple, but there's not many. There's a group in the Northeast. I can only speak of the Northeast because that's where we do business.
Sure.
There's a group of shops in the Northeast that number less than the fingers on a hand.
Right.
That are kind of on the same page when it comes to getting the stuff first. And we're in that group. So we like to have it first.
Yeah.
And for no other reason that it's just a sales thing for us.
Absolutely.
Like next week, we're going to talk about the new Corrado.
Because
a little birdie told me that there might be
one in the mail.
That's exciting.
There might be one or so coming in next week.
That's going to be exciting too when the Corrado comes in.
Awesome.
Greatest reel of all time, right?
Well,
and this is just another generation.
I don't want you to start any fights here online.
This is the greatest reel of all time. I don't know how you can. Fight against that.
Well, I mean, actually, you can.
Sales-wise,
somebody might say that the Tatula is, or somebody might say
Tatula doesn't have the history behind it as the Corrado does.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm just saying.
Bring it.
I know how you like to put yourself out there on the front lines.
I saw on the feedback here, Jeff had a question. The Vanford, is it a level above or below the Stratic?
Well, the interesting thing about the Vanford, if you want to get real technical, it's basically the same reel.
Okay.
Gearing wise. So, I mean, the drive gears, the pinion gears, you can pretty much interchange them.
Gotcha.
The big difference with the Vanford is the body and the rotor are super light. So,
CI4.
It's not CI4. It's like the next level. It's like
CI4
there
plus.
was CI4, then there was CI4 plus. Now there's
there's another
whatever they call it.
So
but
that's why they went to Vanford.
Basically, it's a carbon body that doesn't flex.
Yeah.
The problem with like a standard carbon body, if you're a saltwater guy, the reel will actually the fish pulling so hard here
will flex.
Well, actually, the reel's bolted to the rod. The reel will actually flex. You can actually see the stem, the whole reel pivot on the stem. And
of course, I'm not seeing that because I'm just like,
right.
I'm just holding on.
Why can't I turn the handle?
That's why.
So that Vanford won't do that. And a lot of saltwater guys, not for nothing, there's a Vanford 5000.
Wow.
So the 5000 is built on the 4000 body, and it has the power handle.
Okay.
We sell a ton of Vanford 5000s to guys that fish, wreck fishing, fluking, flounder fishing, sea bassing, tog fishing, and they get these real sophisticated jigging rods that weigh the same as a bass rod. And they put that little Vanford. Well, it's a 5000, but it weighs big, it weighs as much as a 2500 aluminum body.
Wow,
it's pretty cool.
And the whole combo is just
nothing to it.
Ridiculous.
That's cool.
But it holds up.
Right? I love it. I fished one.
That's the thing.
I fished one a couple weeks ago, and we were down flounder fishing. Couldn't get it out of my hands. It was awesome.
What else you got there, George?
Oh, I got stuff.
I know you have stuff.
So I have got the new St. Croix Mojo Trigon. And I'm just not gonna dwell on this too crazy. Mike's gonna show you a few of the rods. So basically, the Mojo blank has been changed. So your Mojo was always SC3 carbon, which is St. Croix's name for that carbon. It's now SC3 plus, which means that it's got that sheet of SC6 in it for strength and without adding weight. So it's very similar construction to Victory. It's not exactly the same resin, but it's very similar as far as the graphite. They do build the blank a little differently, but it's the same material. The Trigon refers to the handle. Mike, try to get the angle on there that shows the handle's not round. I mean the grip, not the handle, the grip. The cork-like material has a triangular shape to it.
I actually like
that fit is good. If you think about it, your hand's not like round.
No, yeah, it goes in sequence. If you're holding the reel and fishing, then the top is a little bit longer, where you would have more of your palm, and the bottom where your pinky is a little bit shorter because
plus
it's farther up on
plus
the
the
rod.
shape is not round around. We talked about this last week.
It looks pretty freaking sweet too.
It's got kind of a little V shape to it.
It's got a racing stripe on it.
It does. Say again. Yeah, the blank it's still that Mojo purple, but now it's a matte finish. It's a new reel seat. And there is a ton of new models. So we have about not quite half the models in. We got it. You can really see the shape of the foregrip and the rear grip.
What's the price point on these?
They did go up a little bit. That's a great question. Okay. So Mojo is now $170. And
still, still within, general.
Well, for that blank.
Yeah.
Is that Sea Guide on there too?
No. I'm not sure the brand of the guide. I did not do my homework there.
That's a spinning rod.
I know they're aluminum oxide rings. Huh? How do you like that? What do you think about that?
That's hot.
Is that some knowledge? I dropped that on you.
Look at this thing. What do we got going here? This is wild.
This is wild. Little risky. They brought this out last year at ICAST, not this year. It's actually, this rod was built for the bank fisherman, and there's actually a 12-shot magazine with inside the blank, 22 long, and you get on a pond or something, and you're accused of trespassing. You can it's
shut it down.
It's a stand your own ground type of a rod. Okay. Basically, there's no safety, so you got to be careful. And if a guy wants to throw down, you just take matters into your own hand. I think that's what it was designed for. No, that's actually called the Grasp Reel Seat. GRASP. They brought it out last year. That's a swim bait rod. That's a 710. I'll tell you what, that's a 710 heavy. Like if you're throwing a Chad, that's your boy. That bad boy will throw a 6-ounce swim bait all day long, 1 to 6. What's the ratings on that, Mike?
3/4 to 3.
Wow.
Well, maybe not 6.
This is
still pretty big.
They make an extra heavy too.
Yeah, I thought the heavy went to 6. My bad. That's a nice rod.
That's a nice rod. You could throw them things on it.
I would like to say something about the Grasp handle. They brought that out last year on the Legend Tournament, which is a $370 and $90 swim bait rod. And the Grasp handle looks really strange, and it's a hard thing for you to grasp. But when you throw a big swim bait on it and wind it through the water, the first thing you think is, why didn't everybody do this?
Yeah. It keeps your wrist straight.
Yeah.
You don't have to go off like that.
And you really hold the rod.
I mean, I can see it's going to give you some leverage. Yeah.
It does not. It doesn't look right. And when you start winding big baits and casting them, It's pretty cool. They make it in 3 rods. They make it in a 710 heavy and a 710 extra heavy, which, let's face it, it's going to cover most of your work.
I think the key to that is when you get bit on the bait that you're throwing with that rod, it's not like, a typical treble. It's, it's probably going to have treble hooks. It could have a single hook, but it's probably going to have treble hooks like a big glide bait or something. Last thing you want to do is keep that fish in the water.
Mhm.
You need to bring that fish to you ASAP.
Mhm.
And I could see where that handle is going to give you tons of leverage. Like,
Oh, you're locked in.
ooh, Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Wait,
it's
they
pretty
had it-
interesting.
They had it set up so we could cast a big bait last year. It was on I think it was a big musky plug.
It was, yeah.
Huge.
No, it was a big whopper plopper thing, remember?
Yeah, it was a big musky
Yeah, it was
whopper
like that
plopper.
big.
I'm talking like 6-7 ounce.
It was huge.
this big around.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh man, could you put a more appropriate lure on here and for trying out a $400 swim bait rod? And it's not awkward. It's a great concept.
Mhm.
I'm just, it's kind of like selling.
Take some time to get over it mentally.
It's kind of like a round wrap rod.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome concept. No one's ever had any success selling them.
Right.
It's kind of like Z-Man bringing out you want to see something fun? You should hang out in here with us and watch people come in and pick up the new Z-Man Ned rig rod
All right.
with a tape-on Tennessee handle. And these young guys are like,
What is this?
They have no clue.
what the hell's this?
Yeah, they have no clue.
Like, that's your rod, man.
Yeah.
Tie 10-foot of line on the tip guide and you go.
I had no idea they came out with a tape on Tennessee.
did 2 of them.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
But, those concepts you got to get over them. If you're a swim bait guy, and many of you are,
You're going to want to try that rod.
you're going to want to definitely
Look at it.
And if you want to throw one, you come down here to the shop,
Yeah.
bring your reel.
Yep.
We'll take a rod off the rack.
Yep.
We'll spool it up or tie it up. You can go out in the yard there and you can throw
Have
that
at
thing around.
Hook it up to Mike's lip.
Yeah.
You can wind Mike in.
Absolutely.
But that's now available in the Mojo with
Yeah.
that blank.
Yeah.
So you got the strength. They even have an 8.3. Like, if you like to throw
Yeah.
9 to 16 inch
Tennis shoes.
swim baits, if your last name starts with an M and ends in an Illiken, I mean, this rod will handle what you throw.
That's right.
Okay, so that's the Mojo Trigon, 27 models, I want to say.
Yeah.
170-ish.
Yep.
Yeah. And the Chad Shad, obviously, I showed you that. For those of you that didn't get the message,
Couple left. There's a couple. I got mine. Before George yelled at me. I got him.
Hurry.
I bought him. I got him. He can't yell at me now.
Hurry. Don't call tonight, though. And last but not least, I want to highlight this hook again. We are selling like massive quantities of this little swim bait hook. This is a 1/0 belly weight hook from BKK. Sorry, Kurt.
That's okay.
It's
New and in. We do not have a underspin hook like that.
Well, you don't have it in a 1-0.
Look at that gap.
We got a 1.0 swim bait hook.
Do ya?
Just not one with a
I mean,
1/0
Willow-leaf.
1-0 still hard to get.
killer gap. Take that up to the lens, Mike. Please. Well, don't stick it in my hand. Take it up to the lens, please, Mike.
Show the people what we're talking about.
That is the BKK Titan Diver. Did not bring that out to sabotage the Hayabusa people that are in the house.
It's all good. You got to show.
We
show
are a
people what we got.
free speech program.
Free enterprise. You make something cool, it gets on the program.
Anything that ends in the word amendment, we go with.
Oh, that's funny.
But you do have a nice swim bait hook.
Well,
We
you know what's funny about that, George? There was a guy in here either today or yesterday who was fishing, and he would fish the evenings. He's been fishing 3 hours in the evenings, and our river's just fishing really well. But he caught his personal best on that setup right there.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You have a swim bait belly weighted screw lock hook.
Yeah.
Belly weighted.
Of course he does. Got 10,000 of them. Oh, there you go. Oh, look at that hook.
Now that's a 3.0. We also
Yeah.
make a 1.0.
But see, look at the
But
shape
you go
of that,
all the ways
George.
up to a.
That shape is different.
We sell it.
I know, but look at the shape of it. It's
Yeah.
different.
It
And-
goes all the ways up to a big.
You want me to explain the engineering on that?
Yeah, yeah. To explain
Can
that
you put
because
that on the lens?
I heard something. I heard something about that. You know, that design. It's a wide gap, but it's different shape.
So a couple different things going on with the engineering on that hook, which there's a lot of great hooks out on the market. Let me just say
There is.
I just happen to know a lot about Hayabusa ones.
Well, you talked us into selling them, and guess what? We sold a few of them.
So the cool thing is you'll see it. Mike's showing you there on the camera that the weight is forward in the hook. You see a lot of swim bait hooks, belly weighted hooks, where the weight is actually in the middle or the rear portion where the hook starts to bend. And the reason it is the way that we designed it in this situation is when you're reeling, the last thing you want is for your bait to be tail down. You want to drive that swim bait and keep it at the depth that you're trying to keep it, right? So what I'm trying, here, let me can hold that one. I'm going to get a big one out just so that they can kind of see this demonstration a little bit back in the camera book. So this is our 5.0. And when you're driving your swim bait, if I'm Mike and he's the angler and he's pulling it toward him, with the weight in the forward section of the hook, it helps keep the bait at depth. It drives the bait because it weights down the head of the swim bait.
And is that flat to act as like a little planing down surface?
Yeah, it's flat so that when the fish bites,
not as
the
much
lure,
gap taken up.
There's not as much gap taken up, so it can expose the hook a little bit more.
Wow.
Lastly, with this particular hook, this is called the 958 WT, which is our swim bait hook. It also has the coating on it. So
NRB.
Yes, the NRB coating. It helps release that hook. So also, let me say, is not only does it help drive, but when you stop reeling, instead of the bait going unnaturally back, it falls naturally forward. That's why that hook is designed.
Yeah. Wow.
I would say around here, the people are most apt to buy your 3.0 with the 1/8 ounce.
Yeah,
because we fish a lot of swim baits about that big, and that 3.0
like
just fits
the 3 inches, like this swim bait here.
A little bigger.
That's a great example.
A little bigger.
Yeah.
So we fish like whatever. That big.
Yeah, 3.5 inch,
Yeah.
4 inch,
4 inch, 4.5,
4.2,
4.5.
Yeah.
Not like a 4.8 fat. The 3.0 is too small for that.
Right.
But when you get into like a 3.8 fat or something of that nature,
Yep.
that hook's perfect.
Yep.
And the 1/8 ounce is really good for shallow water.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's the way that one's designed.
You know,
but BKK makes great product. Don't get me wrong.
No. But
yeah.
I like the fact that that's different.
Yeah, it's the engineering aspect. They're always thinking about that. You know, Hayabusa is a Japanese hook company.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at Japanese products and their culture in general, they are very detail oriented.
Very engineered.
Yes. So that's why it's made.
You got to tell that story, man.
Which one?
That story. How you going to put that on the back of this package?
Oh, yeah, that's tough.
Oh, is that what that says?
Well,
that's why we're on Tackle Talk Live.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it was like your trailer keeper.
Yeah. The
if you don't
trailer lock.
The trailer lock. If you don't explain the trailer lock, no one ever picks them off the rack.
Absolutely not.
None. Zero.
Well, it's funny
because
I
when
think
when you look at that thing, you're like, oh, what the hell is that though?
Yeah.
If you're sick and tired of your nice swim bait sliding down the hook on every fish, put that on.
Last year we had a jig up here because we always have stuff laying on the counter here.
Right.
And we had one rigged up with that thing, and you wouldn't believe how many packs of those things.
Yeah, that's the way
because
it works.
You know, people don't understand it. They're hard. It's really hard to.
It's a story that has to be told, and
that company has a lot of that kind of stuff.
A lot of specialty hook companies, period, but particularly the hook like that.
Yeah,
like that. I'm
like the swim bait hook.
I consider myself pretty sharp on like the intricacies of everybody's product.
That blows me away.
I did not know.
I did not know that either.
Good. I'm glad.
I did not know that. I do now know that.
Let me say the trailer lock, since you mentioned it. Swim baits, you know, the horny toad on a buzz bait. Horny toad always falling.
Critical.
This thing's going to hold it up all day long. Skipping jigs underneath docks.
Oh, with the
your
trailer
trailer's not
trailer
going anywhere.
pulling off,
Not
right?
going
And
anywhere.
once you rig a couple of them, they rig up quick.
Yeah, it takes a second. Just like the first time you rigged a Texas rig, you didn't quite know how to turn it up there correctly to get it to go straight. And maybe the first couple times you rigged a Texas rig, it was waddling through the water all wonky, and your line was twisted after 5 casts.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing. It's a process where you got to learn a little bit.
I find
ultimately it's going to make you a better angler.
Yeah.
I find people want to squeeze it together and push it into the plastic. No,
right.
Leave it like that and push it. And I used to try that myself.
Yeah, you
again,
squeezed it for a while.
Yeah, and it worked.
Yeah.
But it was quite the manipulation of product.
Trying to get it in there.
The other thing that of yours, I don't know how we got on this, but the other thing of yours that I thought was the most innovative thing ever when I first saw it was the spinnerbait trailer hook.
Ah, yes.
With the oval eye.
Absolutely.
And the reason it grabbed a hold of me was one of my favorite spinnerbaits of all time is a hog collar. And a hog collar's hook has the biggest barb on it.
Couldn't get it over it.
And you would always bend that. If you weren't careful with like a Gamakatsu round-eyed trailer hook, you could bend that hook trying to leverage it over there.
Right.
And when I saw that oval eye,
there you go, Mike.
It was game on.
Yeah, so it fits over anything. And then we have the little black beads.
Love it.
That help you if you want to keep it perfectly placed in a certain area or not.
Or just keep one for keeping it from coming off. I like to put one on after I put the hook on and let it swing.
You bet.
Yeah.
Mike, show it to him sideways. Show him the shape of the hook. Now, Gamakatsu actually just came out with a trailer hook that is similar to this shape because they realized that Hayabusa was doing it correctly.
There you go. They did.
But actually what it is it's kind of an inward bend to the point toward the eye of the trailer hook. And the reason that is because when you are, let's say this is my spinnerbait. You're pulling it. Well, it's gonna lag down.
It does.
Right? It's because that's what gravity makes it do. It's no matter what, it's gonna lag down. But now when it lags down, your hook is still appropriately at the correct bend for it to hook the fish and keep the fish hooked.
I love it.
Boat, so
well thought.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well thought.
That's Hayabusa engineering.
I mean, you don't think of this stuff. I would never think of this stuff.
That one there grabbed my eye right from the get.
Yeah, but you were all about the oval, not the actual point.
No,
I like the oval. The oval eye. Very good. Very good.
Who'd have thought about that thing falling down like that?
This has become a favorite hook. Actually, Nick Hatfield just won the Potomac earlier this year on the Invitationals. He used the Schmitty jig, which I know you guys sell, but he also used this. This is the WRM 929 trailer hook, and he used this as his Nico hook.
Oh,
really great Nico hook.
Really?
Look for something in the future from Hayabusa with this shape in a Nico type.
Man, he was lighting them up. And you know what was funny about that?
That was awesome.
What was super cool about that is the Thursday night show that week was all the whole ins and outs and everything there is to do about the bluegill spawn.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we did the whole show on it, and we specifically highlighted, like, probably the weakest place that you'll ever encounter that is on a lot of tidal water.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you can't see them. And here this guy is
winning the tournament.
Just smashing them on.
Well, what was interesting about that is he fished in Quantico the first 2 days, and he was in like 10th, 12th, something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was, but he was fishing in Quantico Creek and he was throwing a swim jig, Nico. It was tons of grass back there. He called an all but audible that last day because it was just top 25, and he's, you know, trying to go. He's almost won a couple times, so he's been in this position. Makes the audible to go to Chickamuxon,
and the tide was super full,
and that's where he caught him on that popper around some more bluegill
in the back.
Yes,
in a place that's normally closed for the spawn.
That is correct. It opens June 15th. I think
it opened. He called and got the okay on
it. That's right.
Great call. And then he ran down the river.
Smart guy.
He ran down the river a little bit and got on the inside of that point, and there was fish there on bluegill.
Yeah,
it was just a great tournament. We broke it down real heavy in here because of the whole bluegill spawn thing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Which is not something that's really, I mean, it probably is now, but it's never been something on the Potomac River that people have really
dwelled
on.
Yes.
Yeah. Because you can't see them.
Agreed.
It just depends on, water conditions, how much rain you've had. I mean, the river can dirty up so quick, just like here on the Susquehanna,
yeah.
right? I mean,
Mhm.
conditions are everything. So,
Yeah, I mean, this river right here in 24-hour period of time went up 1.5 feet, and the water clarity went down like on a scale of 1 to 10. It went from an 8 to a 2. Which is not necessarily a bad thing, but
you're not going to see any bluegill beds. If
No.
obviously
You're not
not,
gonna see 'em.
yeah, but
you will not see any
You're not gonna
bluegill
see any.
beds.
Yes, that's funny. So his pattern could have been just obliterated with a crazy thunderstorm or something, So
He may have never found them.
that's why they say when it's your time, it's your time.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons. That's for sure.
Yeah.
That's cool stuff. So one of the things we wanted to talk about tonight with you was some of your tactics.
Grass and tactics.
Well, being you fish and guide in Texas and you tournament fish as a touring pro all around the country on the Bass Opens.
Yep. Oh, well, I'm fishing some Toyota. I kind of fish
everything
what I want to fish nowadays.
Well,
I was
that's not true.
I was even out at Havasu earlier.
That's not true. You fish what your schedule allows you to
well,
fish.
that too.
I was going to say, why the hell would you go to Hayabusa?
It's a challenge.
Well, I hadn't been there since in 2012. My second Elite Series stint, which was 2012, 13, and 14. The Elite Series went to Havasu. That was the one actually Aaron Martin's won. A lot of people remember
the Bird Eaters.
The Bird Eaters. Yeah. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And man, I just love going to new places and places I haven't been to in a long time. And it was February and there was nothing going on. And I thought, man, let's drive out there and fish that tournament.
Yeah.
And so we did. And I actually did pretty well in it. But that's not today's story.
Yeah.
February is a good month. When you're in the tackle industry, February is like kind of a sneaky month because, you're in your position, you're in heavy sell mode, but you get a little bit of a lull.
Oh, yeah.
The
everybody
beginning of
gets
the year
stocked
hits
up
heavy.
like November, December, January. Then it's like, okay, waiting for everybody to come buy everything. And then
so you can go fishing a little bit.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So I had the bright idea that being you're such a Texas guy, and I know like some of the greatest deep grass flipping, it was invented in Texas.
I think
in
when
my
you start
opinion,
punching grass in 8+ feet, that's Texas.
Yeah.
That's Texas.
Yeah.
And we'll punch grass up to 25 feet deep in Texas.
Jeez.
that takes some adjustments.
It does. It takes a lot. I grew up fishing the Potomac, so I was a grass guy. And so when I moved to Lake Amistad, which is essentially a hydrilla lake, we don't have any milfoil, but we've got lots of hydrilla. And I was able to take what I knew about fishing the Potomac, which was punching in 2 to 4 feet of water, and utilizing that down in Texas. But as you mentioned, George, things change a whole lot when you start punching really, really deep grass. And it's not necessarily that the grass is matted out the surface.
Right.
Let's take Cayuga, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great local lake or regional lake here.
Yeah.
That we can kind of
relate
to with Texas and stuff. But at Cayuga, they'll have 15-foot grass, but it's not necessarily that it's topped out at the surface, but it gets really thick when it starts to get in that 7, 8, 9, and then all the way down to that 15-foot floor of the lake. And those fish are utilizing that almost just as much as they are the stuff that's matted out.
They are.
There's a little bit of difference in some techniques to use, but I think that a lot of these fish go less pressured than those matted or edge of mat fish because people are so visual. They want to see the grass.
Right.
They want to see the edge. You're really obviously using your electronics, which now with the additional things that we all have with forward-facing sonar and this type of thing, you can really dial in where the edge is of that grass out there in 15 and see that the thick grass is in 7 to 15 and really get on the outside edges of that stuff. But you still have to use the same techniques. 3/4 ounce, 1 ounce, 1.5 ounce weights, right?
Mhm.
So you still need the big weight because once you start to get into the grass, you still need it to drop straight to the bottom.
Sure.
And often it's a reaction bite, right? So you want it dropping kind of fast in most situations because you also need the the pressure of the weight to get through the grass.
Remember when Pete won the Open on the Cayuga?
Oh, absolutely.
Flipping the Senko on the heavyweight.
Black Senko, heavyweight,
for the
mid
reaction strike.
That's exactly right. Yep. So same scenario as Texas, as you might see at Cayuga. The key to this is when you make your flip. When you're making your flip on the Potomac River, Chesapeake Bay, you don't need a whole lot of line. It's only going down 2, 3, 4 feet.
Right.
Usually those are the areas that you're flipping. When you're dealing with that deeper grass, you have to really lift your rod tip high because you have to create a lot more slack. Because when you create that slack, that's going to allow that bait and that weight to
fall fast.
Right down to the bottom. Straight down.
No pendulum.
No pendulum. If you start pendulum them, your line's going to start grabbing that grass and start getting hung up, and you're going to lose that reaction
Your
strike.
efficiency goes way down.
Totally.
Length of rod.
I like to use a 710.
Okay, so yeah, I was going to say longer gives you more line.
You can get away with a 7.6, but I like a 7.10.
The longer gives you that more line that you can let it go down with.
That's correct.
Yeah.
The other thing that the longer rod is giving you is when you get the bite, usually it's just like a bite in a mat. Sometimes you get it once it hits and you jiggle once or twice, but 9 times out of 10, it's on the fall.
Right.
And all of a sudden your line is going down, down, down. And then all of a sudden it just starts veering off the wrong way. And you're like, you don't always feel the strike.
Correct.
A lot of time it's just heavyweight or it's just moving off, and you need that little bit longer rod. You're not 100% sure which way that fish went. I mean, if it went right or left, obviously.
Right.
But you don't know if it's right going away, right coming toward you. So that 710 really allows you to pick that line up. And I'm always using braid on a very rare occasion. And I like to use 55-pound braid, just a little bit thinner diameter, little bit thinner, because I don't break much 55-pound braid. I know guys like to use 65, 80. I think you get a little bit better fall. You're going to cut the grass a little bit easier with the 55-pound braid.
Talk about that a lot.
I really, really like 55 when I'm doing this technique.
Well, the number one form of breakage on a big sinker is the sinker rubbing the line.
Yes.
I always tell a story. I've told it on this show a couple times about a 5-pounder in a Croix Creek that I put to bed the night before a BFL, and it got ugly the next day. And I had a beautiful bag of fish, and I'm like, man, I should get down there and get that 5-pounder. And it was like 25-mile hell ride. Pulled in, got back into that mat, back where that fish was, flipped in there, fought him, got him up to the surface, 65-pound or 50-pound braid.
Okay.
That was 50-pound braid, broke. And I'm like, what? It was my sinker, 1.5 ounce sinker, not retying all day.
Yeah, because it's not breaking because you put too much pressure on it.
It broke because it got shredded all day long.
Right.
Which brings us to your sinker.
Well, let's talk. Yeah, Reins sinkers. I know this is something that you guys
wish I had it that day.
You guys have these here in the shop.
I wish I had it that day.
I'll explain a little bit why a Reins sinker costs more than 90% of other tungsten sinkers. So the Reins, number one, it's not painted. It's powder. It's like a powder coated process.
Yeah, they're all matte.
That's correct. They're all matte and they will not chip, period. You cannot make this chip. You cannot make this paint chip. You could take a piece of sandpaper and rub it, and it's going to make a scar, just like a fish tooth would. It's going to scar it, but it will not chip. How many times you go into your tackle box? You know what, you got your favorite Plano box or whatever, you got your Bass Mafia hard tackle box, and you go to look at your sinkers after they've been bounced around the boat for the last 10 months.
They're all chipped
and it's punching time.
They're silver.
That's right. They all become silver. Or
you got to put them all in plastic bags and like stuff them down in the compartment so they don't do that.
Even I've even seen these in my past. Let's say with let's go way back, like true tungsten days, right?
Right.
But you'll keep those in those little shell packs that they came in. Not the smaller ones that were in individual shells, but when you get up to the 3/4, 1 ounce, 1.5 ounce, style of weights, they would just bounce around in that shell pack and they would just friggin' chip.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of tungsten weights now that are on shelves that just chip off, but that makes Reins special. It's the paint job is super special. The second thing is, let's go back to your lost fish.
Cost me a lot of money.
So if you were fishing a dock and it had a metal pole on it, would you want to keep your line away from the metal pole?
I would be retying and checking my line.
Very often.
Right.
Very often.
Which is why that fish surprised the hell out of me.
Well, tungsten is a metal, right? So the last thing you want your line doing is going and rubbing up and down against metal all day long.
Right.
Same thing's going to happen to you. It's going to happen to all the listeners out
I didn't
there.
realize it on that particular day.
There's very few. Now there are some tungsten weights out there that have plastic inserts. Mike, why don't you show this to the audience there? I want the audience to see this insert that's in this Reins.
It's precision.
Weight. It is absolutely Japanese engineering. We'll go back to Aaron Martin's, right? Aaron Martin's used to take shrink tube because he'd want that piece of rubber between his line and the metal, right? Something that we just talked about. Well, Reins does this through the manufacturing process. So you should be able to see right there. Mike's showing it to the camera. The insert, it's basically like a rubber insert. You see it really clearly there on the back because that's the part that's giving the most, to your knot, right? So really protecting that knot on there. Then we're protecting the line that's going to the rod and reel. It's all the way through the entire weight. This is why Reins costs more than your regular tungsten weights.
Well, I actually have some old school tungsten weights, some of the first tungsten weights ever on the market, which were Excalibur. That was one of the first companies that ever put tungsten on the market. They were silver. They didn't even know how to paint them back then. And they had a plastic white nylon liner in them. And I thought that was the greatest thing ever until I learned that 98% of those weights would slide off the liner.
The liner would come out.
They would just, like, your liner would be here and your weight would be here. It was the old Excaliburs. And then there was another company that followed them shortly thereafter when punching became popular.
Right.
And this company only made like 3 sizes of weight, and they put their tubing in there.
Right.
And I bought them, man. They were very expensive. And every one of them, because, I was having flashbacks to that big 5-pounder, and every one of them things was coming out.
Well, let me say that I know for a fact that and that's because we sell the stuff. There's a lot of A-list anglers that use Reins tungsten.
Yeah.
If you are serious about your punching, if you're serious about your fishing, it costs a little bit more money, but it is absolutely the best tungsten out there on the market.
I like
I'm not
3/8.
And I'm saying that because that's what people are telling me to. I mean, of course I sell the stuff, but it is.
One of the interesting story I had, Kurt, and you fished a tournament when I won the boat.
Yeah.
We were
talking
we were talking about that.
Absolutely.
And I told you the story. And
if you guys don't know that, Mike won an elite tournament.
Yeah,
everybody knows it.
Oh yeah, everybody knows it.
Usually he gets his trophies out here and sets them up about once a
right
year.
over there. I can go over and get one if you want me to.
When you do the studio, you have to put all the trophies.
Oh yeah, no, guaranteed. But George broke my trophy. He threw it on the floor and broke it out of anger, and he didn't tell me about it.
No.
And I'm looking at it one day, and there's a big giant chip out of this thing, and it's like stupidly glued back together. And he had nothing to say about the whole thing. But anyway, I don't want to get involved with that. But at the end of that tournament, I was fishing with Randy Howe. I'm never going to forget this. I was fishing with Randy Howe, and at the end of the tournament, I always offer a rider's fee.
Sure.
Take care of the guys because I know it's very expensive to do this stuff.
Yep.
So I break out $200, and I'm like, "Hey, Randy, I want you to have this.
Thanks for the ride.
Thanks
Enjoyed
for the ride. I mean, I wish I had more. I'd give you more because I won this tournament, but this is all I have." He's like, "I don't even want it." He says, "I want the 1.5 ounce sinker that you were flipping with all day today. And I want that Depths Bassariski.
Buzz jet.
Oh, you were throwing a buzz jet.
I was throwing a buzz, and I want that buzz jet. But he said, more importantly, I want that sinker. I said, why the hell do you want this sinker? He said, because you flipped that thing all day long and it didn't cut your line.
Wow.
He said, I'm going to put a T on that, and that's going to be my tournament. I know it's tested and trued. I said, you don't want the $200 too? I said, here, take $200 too. He's not.
I just want the sinker.
I want the sinker
And the buzz jet.
and the buzz jet. That's why I paid him.
Well, the other cool thing with
That's how bad it was with, because they didn't have inserts back then.
Right.
Or
They didn't have good ones.
or the ones they had were them plastic things that pulled right
Yeah.
out.
The only way you knew it is because
Exactly.
you fished with it all day, and
Exactly.
he knew that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, people don't look at this like that, but honestly, that's how important it is. And it's important to have a quality one that's going to hold up to it. And because George had that fish on that was going to make a big change in his fishing career.
Creel. Yeah.
And or his
in
creel
in my bank account.
and your bank account, and he lost that fish. So it could be your PB.
Sure.
You don't have to be a tournament fisherman. It could be that PB that everybody is out there trying to strive to get. They're always bettering themselves. And we have some serious hardcore people that don't tournament fish.
Sure.
You know that. And they're going after that PB, and that could be that PB on, and you're using secondary tungsten and break off.
Yep.
So this is why we put it in the shop.
I like them.
We knew it was going to be expensive. We knew it was going to be.
It costs a couple extra bucks.
That guys are going to look at, but there's a big time reason for it, and I'm really glad you explained it like that, because it really makes out what that tungsten's all about.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you guys have a great selection of all the slip sinkers up here, so they're readily available.
We got them.
We got them here, and anybody that's listening and has questions on it, you can call us or stop in and take a look at it, and then question us in here, and we'll show you the tungsten. But they don't just make slip weights; they make all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, nail sinkers, drop shot sinkers, all kinds of things. We're going to get into one here in a a little bit. But I kind of wanted to just go over a couple quick baits.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, when you're punching grass like that, you're not just putting any old bait on.
No, definitely not. The first thing, I do like to use reins for a couple specific reasons. What's the biggest problem you have when you're punching grass?
You getting through the grass.
Getting through the grass. Once you get through it,
not tearing my bait up.
Keeping your bait clean.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty important process. Keeping your bait clean.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you get a really soft piece of plastic. That hook point just comes through just a little bit, and it picks off that little piece of grass. Pick it off, throw it away, make another flip. Oh gosh, 2 flips later, got some more grass on there.
Plus, you got to fix your bait.
By the time you've made an hour worth of punching flips and pitches, you might need a whole new bait just because you've worn a hole in the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one thing I really like, this is the punching Predator from Reins. Mm-hmm. The reason it's the punching Predator is because it's specifically made with a little bit more dense plastic. If just feel the plastic, how tight it is.
It's not going to tear out as easy, and your hook's not going to
catch
that little bit of grass as easy. You use a straight shank hook all the time.
Absolutely. That's why I was just going to get one with the hook on it. This is a laminate bait. I know the audience can't really see, but it's green pumpkin on one side, blue on the other. One of my favorites. But yeah, when you rig this up, I like to rig it with the straight shank hook. Slide it right through about 3 ribs, turn it over. Hayabusa. This is a Hayabusa straight shank, of course. This is the FPP 4.0 FPP straight. It's got a little monofilament bait keeper there. So we slide it up above the mono bait keeper so it sticks out. It doesn't impede anything there, and it's flexible. So when you do get a bite or it does fall down, it's not going to rip your plastic.
Yeah, it doesn't shred it as quickly.
That's correct. So we're going to slide it in there just like that, slick as can be. Really important. I think one fundamental, guys, that most people overlook is rigging your plastics correctly. Kind of hit on it a little bit earlier. We were talking about the first, 5 or 6 times you might rig your Texas rig plastics, and it's doing a death spiral like a gator through the water, and it's going to twist your line all up.
Big time.
Really, really important to rig. Pay close attention to rigging your plastics correctly. Whether you're flipping, Texas rigging, throwing a Ned rig, whatever it is.
Well,
really important.
Certain plastics require certain hooks.
That is true.
That bait right there, obviously the straight shanked hook is going to be the guy that's, particularly a hardcore tournament guy.
Yes.
A lot of other people would like to rig that on like a wide gap. And that would work well too.
It would work okay.
Yeah.
It would work okay.
Yeah.
The reason that the straight shank with close combat fishing, like punching, flipping, pitching wood, that type of thing, the reason that it works so well is because when the fish bites, it has the most point exposure, more than around, it kind of goes from straight shank to round bent offset to EWG.
Yeah.
That's the whole scene. So if you look at your cover orientation, like if I'm throwing a really thick brush pile, I'm going to throw an EWG, 10, 15 foot brush pile. I'm going to throw an EWG. If I'm flipping grass, something that's not hard, I'm throwing the straight shank. So, but it's important to have that plastic that's also durable, because a lot of other baits, you're just going to keep making a hole in the lure.
Question for you. What's the difference between a metal keeper and a whatever? What are you
Yeah, this is a
monofilament keeper.
Yeah. Just the difference is this is pliable. So this will bend. So when I hook the fish, if this bends down through, it's just going to hold and not really like
Doesn't
rip the
tear it
plastic.
back.
Yeah, it's not going to rip my plastic apart totally.
So you get a little bit more life out of the plastic.
More use.
Well, the metal one just splits it right in half.
Yeah,
That's right.
so there you
just
go.
get more
I think we talked about that before, but didn't really understand all that.
Yep.
100%.
Yeah, if you look at that, it's crazy. They're tied on.
Oh, it's totally tied on. Yeah.
I mean, somebody's tying
so
that thing on there, man.
This piece is actually, this hook is made in Hayabusa's factory in Japan, and this tied on piece of monofilament, which I think this is 30 pound. Don't get me lying, but I think that's about 30-pound test. That's actually tied on in Vietnam.
Is it?
Yep. And then it's sent back to Hayabusa factory and then shipped here to the United States.
I mean, that's a process right there. Look at the beautiful wraps.
Yeah, it's hot.
I'm glad I don't have a job though tying them on.
Yeah. Rough gig.
7 hours and 45 minutes into your day.
Here's an underrated one. We hear a lot about tubes and sight fishing. A lot of guys like to use tubes, sight fishing. Then you hear about tube smallmouth fishing, but that's a totally different tube. This is a Reins tube. It is the Croix tube, hence the little appendages hanging on. This is a great punching bait also.
Yeah.
And when it hits the bottom, when it hits the bottom, these things just flaring all over the place, man. That's just a come get me kind of deal. And the really neat thing about this particular tube, which you don't find in many tubes anymore, is this whole top
Solid.
is solid.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's solid.
Yeah, we were talking in here the other day about the Croix tube. And, the Croix tube's been around for a long time. The Reins Croix tube's been around for a long time.
Long time.
But it kind of goes in
It's like the
popularity. Yeah. And what's interesting is Seth Fighter actually, I feel, is responsible for the last flare up of it. Because
rejuvenation.
every day you saw him on camera and he was flipping grass, it was either a jig or a Croix tube. And he went over his Croix tube one day, and people are like, "Oh, I used to fish those. I gotta dig them out and try them again." And the popularity regained on that. And I love old school baits.
Yep. And
one of the things that's cool about old school baits, especially with most of our world that has intense fishing pressure, an old school bait that's not being fished much anymore is like a new bait.
Agreed.
We all jump on the new bait wagon, and there's some truth to the new bait wagon because the new bait catches fish because the new bait's different.
Recycled.
I mean,
do the same.
I'm sure you could go into your tackle room at home, everybody, and find a bag of Croix tubes and see if you get some success. And if you do, I would encourage you to buy Reins the next time simply because of the scent. I don't think you even mentioned the scent.
No, we didn't.
Totally.
It's the total aura in here right now.
I'm down with that squid scent that is all JDM plastics.
Well, that's the whole key. The big thing with taku right now and smallmouth fishing, and you even saw it with over there at St. Clair, the last event, he talked about how important scent was.
He's got liquids, powders.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he probably can't even get through TSA.
He's coming from the same place that these baits came from. They got a crazy good scent to them. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. When you get that, and I go back to like the granddaddy of all JDM baits that started it all, which was Kitech. Started everybody's mind to this. I mean, it's the scent.
Yeah. It is.
And when you're like in challenging situations, like one of my favorite things to do in super cold, clear water is to make sure I'm fishing a squid scent bait. You just get more bites.
Yep.
You do. I'm not quite at Taco's level yet where I have a little assembly line set up on the front deck of the boat.
Yeah.
He
believes in it, obviously.
He sure does.
He talks about it a lot. So
he sure does, man.
When he gets to what's he calls a smallmouth Disneyland.
Yeah.
When he gets the smallmouth,
I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've noticed myself personally, we fish the Kitech 4-inch swing impact a lot in the wintertime.
Mm-hmm.
When the water temperatures get down below 40, 5 degrees or whatever, we really start relying big time more on those baits.
Right.
Can't fish them all the other times because you go through them so many, but they're fantastic. But really in the wintertime when it's really slow bite and you're really just kind of swimming that thing and it's just letting the current push it along, squid scent, you can tell a difference.
Makes a huge difference.
There's no doubt.
Well, I think that's what turned us on to Reins back in the day.
Absolutely.
Was drop shotting the bubbling shaker worm for smallmouth up north.
We're going to talk about that.
Oh yeah.
In a minute.
I know that's,
talk about that.
I know that's coming up, but
Yeah.
it was the scent
Yes.
Yeah.
that literally drove the smallmouth to eat that bait. We had New York guys that would call down here and order giant quantities of them, and they called it bass crack. I mean, it was just straight up bass crack.
It was almost like the Max scent 2 years ago.
Yeah,
It really was.
It was exactly like that.
But
really
it was
was.
6 and 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny.
All right, let's go there.
All right, let's do it. Well, let me last thing I want to say about the crawl tube is I like to rig this on an EWG hook. I like to rig it on an EWG because this part of the crawl is hollow. It's hollow. So the hook runs through it real easy. The other potential thing that you can do if you really want to use a straight shank hook is when you rig the crawl tube, rig the hook to the side if you want to use a straight shank hook. What I mean by that is once you rig it up, pinch it into the side of the bait so that it has something to stick in solid.
Oh,
So
okay.
you can see that. So it's
Yeah.
actually hooked into the side of the bait rather than through the middle of the bait. Show them that real quick.
That's a great idea.
But you can do that with the straight shank. But generally, I like to hook it straight through and throw EWG. But every angler has their preferences. So that's a potential there if you want to throw the straight shank hook with the crawl tube.
I like that punching predator myself.
Yeah, punching predator is great. And I tend to lean on the punching predator as well, but I got a lot of buddies that love it. Well, you talked about it already, like Fighter.
Yeah.
Fighter likes the tube, and these are both items that you guys have in stock now too. So
Yeah,
with
the
the
crawl
Reins
tube.
brand.
The crawl tube's probably over the years has been our best selling Reins flipping bait.
The punching predator is gonna become the next.
Well, I
one.
mean,
now that they know,
We've had a
more
lot of
about it.
guys fishing that bait,
Yeah.
but the crawl tube has ruled. Yeah.
All right, Mike, you wanted to jump into the bubbling shaker.
And the drop shot.
I mean,
And
that
the
thing
drop
is
shot rig, right.
such a special bait, and I think people just don't give it its.
Well, at one time it had its due.
They definitely did, man.
It's the same thing, an old bait comes back
Yeah.
around
Yeah.
to new.
Yeah.
Everybody's throwing a max scent worm right
Yeah.
now, right?
Yeah.
So what I actually wanted to show is people talk about drop shotting. 90%, I would say, when they think of drop shotting, they're thinking about nose hooking
Yeah.
drop shot, right?
Yeah.
Nose hook. Let's show the crowd that the nose hook of the drop shot, that is one way to rig a bubbling shaker. And you just want to throw this like your typical, maybe change around your leader length, maybe from as short as maybe 6 inches all the way up to 24 inches, just kind of depending on the cover you're fishing, how you think the fish are oriented within the water column. A lot of times up north, especially on Erie, I like to use a longer leader. I want to keep that bait away from the drum
And the gobies.
And I don't mind if a goby's picking on it a little bit. That might attract something. But I definitely don't want to keep reeling in drum. And I feel like if I have it a little bit higher, you know, that 2-foot leader, the smallmouth will come up and eat it no problem, and the drum won't feed up.
When you're in that Western Basin, man, they got some drum out there.
They got lots of drum.
Good Lord. You go to the east side of the lake, they don't have, they're
No.
rare.
That's correct.
Man, you get that bite. You almost don't want to set the hook. Remember the pre-spot lock days?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you had to get the gas motor back on.
Yeah.
You had to drive back up to your waypoint. You had to completely re-rig your whole drop shot rig.
Right.
And then you drop it down the very first drop and it would go. You almost want to cry. Is it a 5-pound smallie or a 25-pound drum?
Drum. I think a longer leader helps in that scenario. Then, you know, you could take it all the way up to sight fishing or fishing shallow vegetation. You might
I never
want to
thought about that.
might have a 6-inch leader or something.
I didn't think about that.
Sight fishing.
No, the long leader to keep it away from the
Oh,
drum.
yeah, it helps.
I just kept feeding them suckers.
It helps. Yeah, that gets to be a long day.
Man, I was pissed. I literally would not set the hook if it bit, even in the tournament.
That's rough.
It would be like, tunk. Nope.
Usually I set the hook, and then after like 10 cranks, you're like, oh, crap. That's not a smallie.
Well, you can literally waste your whole entire day just.
Oh, it's such a great bite.
It is.
It's a great bite.
If you were just there for sport fishing,
They're great.
it'd be badass.
They're awesome.
If they fight hard
Yeah.
and they're big.
They are awesome.
So we talk about the nose hook of the drop shot. And you could also rig this weedless as well. When Mike just showed it, you know, I had it rigged all the way through. But you could also just rig up to the point of the hook and keep that a little bit more weedless.
Yeah.
Let's show the folks.
I like that.
You could do this, you know, if you're, you know, anywhere there's some
Plus,
sparse
you tend to get a little more mileage out of your baits that way.
Absolutely.
I do like that.
Yep. So that's another modification of nose hooking. That hook right there is DSR 132 HD. We made the HD for big smallies. It's a small diameter hook. Obviously, all by the way, all Hayabusa hooks chemically sharpened hooks.
I think that's the only drop shot hook you need to have
It's really good. I think there's a couple different sizes
for that kind of hooking.
but yes, yeah, I would agree with that. Here's another way to rig a drop shot. Totally different presentation, in my opinion. Now, this is rigged with a FPP straight. This is a 1.0 hook, again, with the bubbling shaker, and a completely different presentation, but still drop shot. And I have seen where this will make a difference, where you'll get bites on this presentation versus a nose hook present. That nose hook present, although these ribs in the bubbling shaker is going to create some buoyancy with the bait because they trap air. You see this a lot with what's that new Crush City bait that Wheeler just came out with? That little minnow looking thing. It's got ribs just like this. You know why it's got ribs just like this? Because it helps buoyancy, and you're wanting to float that bait in front of bass.
I forget what they call it.
Bubbling shaker does the exact same thing. You could put this on a jig head, achieve the same process, but we're talking about drop shotting right now. So, Mike, let's show them that real quick. So this is another way to rig. This is going to help keep that bait up and kind of lively and give that tail, because you're structuring the front quarter of the bait. It makes the tail have even more action, more waggle to it, more waggle. So I really like that presentation.
We were talking about that style of rigging. We call it threading.
Threading. That makes sense.
We were talking about that style in our last couple episodes whenever we touched on bigger, bulkier baits.
Okay.
For drop shotting.
Yeah.
That's another good reason to do
Absolutely.
that. You see that trend in the Strike King bait that they like to drop shot, the baby Z2 and the Z2,
because it's real high buoyancy.
It's bulky.
Yep.
You know, so I remember when we first saw that on a public tournament was when Jordan Lee was just wrecking fish on it on St. Clair.
I remember that. Him and Matt were catching big.
They were threading them on.
Yes.
And it was genius. Your hook's farther back in the bait. Your hookup ratio is great. You're going through less baits, I feel.
Yeah.
Which is a problem. I mean, when you get on these smallmouth fisheries, You go up to St. Lawrence River and you go for a 3-day trip with your buddies. I mean, you could literally use 75, 80 baits a day. And I mean, use them to the point where they're useless.
Right. The Z2, you're going to use like 3.
Yeah. Right.
You buy a bag, it lasts a week.
Which kind of causes a problem for you. If you're running out of stuff and you got 2 more days of fabulous fishing and the weather's right, you're going to have to adapt.
Yeah.
So, I like that threading presentation. I personally have never used it. Mike and I fish a couple areas local here where occasionally we have to put a couple fish in the boat if we're fishing one of the little local tournaments and things aren't quite going right. And we'll put that bright chartreuse Z2 on and catch a couple 12 inchers just to get the 5 fish in the boat.
Get something moving.
And when you thread that thing, you can pretty much put that rod in that rod locker and fish that drop shot for the entire tournament season.
Right.
With the same bait on it. You don't even, one pack in the glove box and you're good.
That's funny.
Unless you lose it. So
the shaker doesn't quite last that long.
Yeah, but it lasts longer when you thread it on.
It does. It does make it last long.
I fished those a lot nose hooked, and I'll tell you, just a straight nose hook on those with smallmouth.
Yep.
You better have a few bags with you when you go up north.
Right. So same hook. This is the 1.0 FPP straight. Simple change.
Texas
now
rig.
it's Texas rig.
So now you can drop shot in a brush pot.
Yeah, in brush,
docks,
weeds, grass, docks, anything.
What hook is it now again?
That's the FPP straight.
The little flipping hook.
Yep, it's the little flip, which is basically the exact same hook we showed earlier
in the baby version.
Punching Predator. Yep, and yes,
same hook, just a smaller size.
That's correct. Same hook, smaller size.
Which
it's a fine wire hook. It's not.
Well, in the bigger hook, it's a thicker wire.
Right.
But, if you recall, Mike, a couple years ago, we had a seminar in here and Greg was talking about drop shotting with that hook. Specifically, the little FPP hook.
Yeah.
And it had nothing to do with flipping, even though it's a flipping hook.
That's right.
It was drop shotting, power drop shotting, boat docks and brush in shallow water.
Nice.
With not a drop shot rod. And certainly not drop shot line, but not like Bubba shotting, but a spinning rod. And that hook was the key player to that. And it kind of, we kind of wrote down a note here, like alternate types of drop shotting, right?
Yes, yes.
And it's big deal.
You think of drop shotting and you think singularly technique. But ultimately, drop shotting is so multifaceted. It's just small variations that create a different presentation.
There's a time to get that bait off the bottom.
Absolutely.
We had a drop shot show in here once, and we talked about what a lot of people call Bubba shotting.
Mm-hmm.
And I was relating a story about a BFL tournament I was fishing where fish were bedding, and they just. The night before, man, it was like, oh, man, this is over quick.
Right.
The next morning, it's like, what? And a wacky rigged 5-inch Senko on, 20-pound fluorocarbon on a drop shot, you went from 0 to hero.
Right.
And it's just, there's
variation
a drop shot. The word drop shot, you immediately think uber finesse. You immediately think like going up north and fishing for smallmouth.
Yep.
You immediately think, and that's just not what it is anymore. I mean, the tournament world and hardcore anglers everywhere have squeezed every aspect of drop shotting that there is.
Yeah. Yeah. And
right?
There's a lot of it. Yeah.
From Bubba shotting to the crazy stuff Aaron Martins would do with like 4-pound test line and a size 6 hook.
I remember you speak of Aaron, and I was thinking about this, but wasn't sure how to kind of flow it into the conversation. But he won he either won or finished second at California Delta, drop shotting the edge of Thule's in Frank's track. So he was Toolies, basically reeds. Yeah, reeds. When you cross the Mississippi, they call them toolies. back east, we call them reeds, right? They're a little bit different. You got flat reeds and you got round toolies or buggy. They call them buggy whips too down in Florida.
JT Kenny calls them mother-in-law tongues.
Well,
the flat ones.
Yeah, that's actually
that's a Florida thing.
That is a Florida thing. And they've even got some mother-in-law tongue on the James River. Yeah, absolutely. They're almost like arrowhead. You know how they have the arrowhead, but the mother-in-law tongue is super thick, and I guess it can really get pissed.
Yeah, or you can get pissed when your braid cuts in.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, last technique I want to show with the drop shot that this is also a DSR 132, but we up the size by 3. This is the 2.0 model. You were talking about drop shotting thicker baits. Like, if you drop shot like some goby style baits, this would be your go-to bait. But I really like to use this size hook when I alter to a wacky rig presentation on the drop shot. Now, when, whether you're throwing a bubbling shaker, you talked about Senkos, a 4-inch Senko or something like that.
Or a 5-inch Senko.
This is a presentation that's not going to get down to the bottom really quick. So if you're firing forward-facing sonar or fishing vertically, this probably isn't the best presentation because it doesn't seem like it would be that big a difference, but it takes a lot longer for this thing to sink like this than it does like this with some of the
bigger sinker on.
Well, you could. Yeah, you could put a bigger sinker on as well.
I'm a country boy, but I can figure that one out.
That's right. But this variation can also do the same thing as before. Just create a totally different presentation.
Well, and that particular tournament where I learned how to do that was on the fly, in the fire.
Right.
I didn't use the right hook, so I didn't think it through. The first thing I did was I took a 3/0 Superline EWG and just wacky rigged my bait on it because that was all laying on the floor of the boat and I was pissed. And that worked great, except for I got snagged on every piece of wood down there with my big anchor.
Right.
So then I thought, well, let me get a smaller hook. So I got like the same hook that I would wacky rig a Senko with. And I didn't realize that I was on a 4-power Loomis with 20-pound fluorocarbon, and all I did was just hook a 5-pounder, get him to the side of the boat, get in that last battle, and then the hook would just flex open, and I would lose the fish when I got him in that high stick position. So that was no good. So just that hook change. That's a heavy hook. That one. Yeah, that would have never flexed out.
That will not flex out.
That hook right there, I would have won that tournament too.
But that's the whole key to.
So now we have a sinker and a hook,
and 2 tournament wins.
It's possibly why me and KVD aren't retiring together because of a sinker and a hook. I'm just saying.
Now let me say that I hear this all the time. Someone will use a product. I don't care what brand it is or whatever, and they'll say, "Man, I was using this, and XYZ was the result," which was a negative potentially result. That's why they're telling me this. And so I asked that exact question. What was your setup? Are you using the appropriate hook for your setup? Because that is so important. You do need that thin wire hook if you're slinging 10-pound test on a spinning rod and wacky rigging Senkos. But if you're drop shotting with 20-pound test, or, and wacky rigging
and a 4-power rod,
you need a different hook.
Yeah,
you need it. But a lot of times people don't think about that match. But that's why you have, 20 SKUs of hooks, and that's why Hayabusa makes 4 different wacky hooks, because a wacky hook on a 4-power rod with 20-pound test hook is different than a wacky hook with 8-pound test and a spinning rod. Yes, yeah, that is. This is my personal fishing.
Answer that question.
That's the hooks you need. That's the assortment. That's the assortment you need for all the techniques when you're traveling around the country. If you're fishing here in PA,
strongly urge you when you leave tonight, to make sure you have eyes on that box because I mean that is one beautiful hook box.
Notice I do keep all of my hooks, and I think this is also really important. I would suggest to all listeners, keep your hooks in the original package.
Amen.
Keep them in the original package and then put them in a box because moisture, all these things can have detrimental effects. I don't care what brand.
Well,
it
if
is.
your hooks are loose and they're bouncing around in the box, it dulls them.
They're like that cruddy tungsten that's going to chip.
They get dull.
Your hook point is going to dull. That's
and you
correct.
paid a lot of money.
That's right.
I call them stickers, like in racing sticker tires.
Right.
I get a sticker hook out of the pack, man. I'm gonna put a sticker hook on.
You know how I knew that was your box?
Why is that?
Your tournament box?
How?
Because every time we'd ask for a hook, you'd go right to the spot.
I knew exactly where it was.
You knew exactly where it was. So I knew that was your personal box, and it wasn't the one you use for work. This is the one that
we're gonna have to get you into one of them fancy waterproof boxes.
Yeah.
He doesn't need that.
Well, you never know. If you were on
He's old
Champlain
school.
today, you might have been begging for a waterproof box.
Probably.
Those guys are probably still fixing their grass.
Well, let's
right
wrap
now.
this up real quick with some of the new baits and the last couple things you want to talk about.
Oh, we have one more technique we want to talk about.
Yeah, we're getting late here, and we want to kind of keep it.
Well,
rolling
we did take a hit from PPL, so
I know.
we are playing. We are
I
playing.
know.
Power company starved.
Yeah.
I mean, we're a player down on this one, but I wanted to talk with Kurt. Well, so did you.
Yeah.
About
yes,
free rig.
Yes.
And I'm just gonna straight up. I just want to have full transparency here. I have never thrown a free rig in my life.
All right. So let me just say,
And I want to make this change now. I want to learn this. Talk to me like I'm a dummy.
a guy you know really well, actually, Dave Mansue. Dave Mansue.
I hope Dave's watching the show tonight.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Dave Mansue was down at my youth fishing camp, and I got another buddy. His name's Tim Flowers that was also at the camp, and Tim had been dabbling with this, and I think he had mentioned to Dave that he was getting some bites on it. And during my youth fishing camp in June at Lake Amistad, even Denny Brower tied one of these on by the end of the camp. This is no baloney. So anyway, it was getting a lot of bites. I mean, this thing was unbelievable. But basically, I'm gonna borrow this piece of line.
Just take that sinker off of there. You want some fresh line?
Fresh line's good.
We got like 5 miles of it right here.
Here, this is all right. Here
we have like 5 miles of it right there.
Fresh line. We got fresh line.
You have any specific requests online? Would you like anything special?
This is going to work perfect. This is 10-pound test. I don't recommend using 10. I recommend using anything from 12 to 20-pound test.
Oh,
yeah.
So we're not talking finesse here.
No. You can throw this around.
I noticed you got a half-ounce sinker there.
Yeah, this is a half-ounce. You can go quarter, 3/8, half-ounce. I think they all work really well.
Okay, I just learned something, Mike. This is not finesse. This is power finesse.
I missed it. What sinker did you put on?
Half-ounce. We put on a half-ounce Reins.
And 12-pound minimum.
Now this here, you while we're getting this set up, you can show the audience this one up real close. This is the Reins Slim Downshot Sinker
with a ring.
Yes, it's not pinch, it's ring. Very important. And it needs to be quality ring. It needs to be a quality ring.
I did learn that much so far.
Let's see. Where's my one with the hook go in it?
Right there.
Oh, there it is right there. All right. We're just going to use this crawl because it's rigged and ready to go. All right. So we're going to tie this on real quick.
I'm going to get you scissors.
Do a real fancy Palomar knot here. I generally like to use a plastic that has some tail movement. In the Reins category, that would be an axe crawl, which, if you could imagine, it might look like a speed crawl or a paca crawl, something with some movement in it. Maybe like in the Strike King world, a rage. What are those little rage things?
They have rage everything.
Not the crawl.
Rage menace grub.
Menace grub. Menace grub.
They're bad to the bone, aren't
That'd
they?
be a good one for this style of presentation. But so they call it free rig because the weight is free. Not by cost, but by movement.
I haven't tried it yet.
This is like I said, this is Mike just showed you, this is a 1/2 ounce Reins tungsten. Then you've got the free rig, which is basically a Carolina rig with no stopper, no tie. This is just going straight. Whoa.
It's like a Texas rig.
It's kind of like a Texas rig.
With no peg.
With no peg. That's exactly right.
But the sinker can really slide good.
That's correct.
That's why you want a good ring.
That's the difference. That's why you want this good ring with reins.
How do you fish it?
So you're going to throw this out,
This
and
is
you're
what
going
the
to
people want to
slack
know.
line the deal. It's like the Carolina rig that you threw messed up and the weight was way over here and your bait went way over there, but it's just the opposite, right? So the weight goes and your bait comes following behind, and you're going to let it go down on slack line, totally slack line. So this is going to be falling slow. Your lure is going to be falling slow, but your weight's going to go right down, kiss the bottom. And now you're going to be just hovering this essentially down toward where your weight's going to be.
So you're just picking up on your rod slow.
Very slow, or do very little of nothing. It's just like every technique. You got to go for a little bit. Yep. You got to test the temperament of the bass.
Yeah.
So once you work this down, now essentially you have a Jika rig, right?
Yeah.
That's basically what that is. That's
and I like that.
A Jika rig.
I like that.
So you can work this a little bit, but if you're really finding that separation with the free rig is really what's triggering the bass, which is what was happening in June down at Lake Amistad, almost like stroking a jig. That's right, George. You want to pull your rod tip up,
reload,
and then that's going to bring this up in the water column,
and you're going to let slacker go.
There she goes again. Now you got this free rig. Now, why is it so great? You hear about people putting really light hooks on Carolina rigs.
Yeah.
Why? They want the bait to float high.
Yeah.
Well, you don't have to worry about that with
back in the day. We'd put a little packaging peanut inside a tube or something.
Yeah, or a piece of foam.
Yeah.
Yes. So you don't have to worry about that stuff anymore. You just let it slide. It's going down to the bottom. Now you've got another free presentation of the lure.
Deadly.
Really subtle. And you can do this in 3-4 foot on the edge of grass. You can do it in 10-15 foot, in trees or laydowns or in a river channel or whatever, or you can do it in 20 foot over brush, right? You can work it all over the place.
And you could put any kind of bait you want on there.
Anything you want. That's correct.
You could put like a minnow style bait on there, you
could put a swim bait on there.
You could put like one of them Z-Man scented jerk shads on there.
Sure.
Like you would Demiki rig with.
That's correct.
What were you catching on down at Amistad that in June?
I think most of the guys were using some of Denny's supplies, some Strike King goods. But I think, like I say, you need something with some swim action to it. In the Reins category, it's an axe crawl. It kind of has that paca deal. Or you talked about the Rage Menace, Speed Crawl.
How about that new range bait that we're going to be putting in the shop there? That
new Reins bait.
That new
bubbling crawl.
How would that work on there?
It could be good. It could be good. Now it doesn't have the swimming action.
Doesn't have it.
There's no kick on this. This is kind of a Texas rig bait jig, but this is the bubbling crawl. Basically, the bubbling crawl has that ultra effective teat from the bubbling shaker. That's what really gives that real lively eye. Keeps that bait live.
That's one of our next baits that we have coming into the shop here.
You want to show them that up close, Mike? The bubbling crawl.
So you would not free rig that?
I would not free rig that.
Okay.
Bubbling crawl for me would be jig head fishing, like out here in the river. To get you a lead head jig, 1/4 ounce, open hook scenario. Got that crawl moving around, but you're going to have that extra action because of that additional appendage.
Trailer on a finesse jig
in the middle. Yeah.
Little micro jig.
The appendage is the key to this bait. That middle appendage is what makes it special.
Okay.
That's what makes that bait special. It's going to keep that action going.
Well, I remember when you showed me that at ICAST and you said that would be something that you would highly recommend for our fishery here.
Absolutely.
Also, it's probably going to be a sought after item around the country.
Oh, of course.
So,
I think everything is getting kind of finessey.
it is
A lot of fishing techniques are getting finessey, and Reins specializes in a lot of that stuff. That's why
I think the Nico rig put the word cool in finesse.
I would agree with that.
You know,
I think the number of bites you get put the word cool in finesse.
I mean,
Like,
you can. I mean, me and Mike fish together like all the time, and I mean, we're both adequate finesse fishermen, maybe good finesse fishermen, but I tend to be very reluctant to go to it.
right.
Whereas he'll pick up a spinning rod, which I think is a great tag team in a team tournament. You know, he'll pick that spinning rod up when he's like, I don't know much about forward facing sonar, but I know the fish in this tree aren't eating anything we're throwing at them.
Slim it down. That's what Reins does really well in a lot of cases. So, yep, that's the bubbling crawl. Now, Mike's anxious over here.
Yeah, this is the other bait that you have us adding to the shop here. What's this all about?
This is going to be ready to go when you got this is readily available. We're going to send it out here once you guys get all your other iCast stuff. I know you're hanging lots of new product.
Yeah, we have everything on a schedule.
Yes, yeah. So
we're very schedule oriented.
You smell it already?
I do.
Does it smell delicious?
It does.
I love this stuff. So this is the tank, the Reins tank. This
that's good.
Is a gravity bait. George, you and I both like using that term.
Yeah, well, I would like. Now we talked about the Yamatanuki,
yes,
on the show here, and we had some of our listeners chime in. I kind of likened it to fishing the Senko when it first came out.
Right.
Only on steroids now.
110%.
So can you take a couple minutes? I'm sure you've spent a lot of time fishing this.
Not as much as I'd like.
But you're getting there.
Yes,
I can guarantee you've done a lot more than I have.
Well, the research I've done and the understanding I have of the presentation is pretty good.
Because I had a great conversation with Cruz on this.
Kenta Kimura
is
the King Kong of the gravity bait.
Okay.
Oneida last year, he almost won the Open.
This is why I have sneaky tactics written down here.
Yeah. But Kenta used a lot of, he made a specific bait for Berkeley in Japan. That was a bug bait. That bug bait was dense plastic. Really, that's what this is. That's what the Yamamoto is. The Yamatanuki. It's this plastic is so dense that it just falls.
It's not just a big ton of salt in there. It's actual different plastic.
110%.
You're fishing it weightless.
Plastic. That's correct.
Okay.
I'm fishing it on a 4/0 EWG hook.
Well, it's bulky.
Yep. It's bulky. You need the gap. You definitely need the gap. But you can see that 4/0 fits in there like butter.
Yeah.
Butter.
Yeah.
So that's the 4/0 EWG. That's the Hayabusa 956. I like a medium wire hook, not a thick wire hook, even if I'm using big line. If I'm using 18 or 20 pound test, which is often done with this lure, and you're going to throw it out, let it sink, make a long cast. And you're going to be able to make a long cast with no weight because this thing is dense. You're going to make a long cast, let it fall to the bottom. Do nothing. Make sure it's slack. And it's going to fall like 2 foot a second. I mean, it's
getting down there like a Texas rig.
It's getting down there pretty quick. Then the key to this thing is almost like you mentioned earlier, George, Senko type fishing.
That's what it reminds me of.
Drag it slowly. Let the fluorocarbon, it's typical. You've got to use fluorocarbon line with this. You want the fluorocarbon to sink. So the sinking of the fluorocarbon, this bait is here on the bottom. The angler's here. You threw it out. You want that fluorocarbon to get down too, because when you want to move this bait, you don't want it moving up. You want this moving horizontal. You want it moving horizontal through the water. You do that 2 ways. One is letting the fluorocarbon sink. So give it time. This is a patient, long present, not extremely long, but it's a longer than a Texas rig presentation. So you want that fluorocarbon to sink, and you're moving it, and you're just kind of giving it a little twitch on slack line, and that's going to, but it's slow. Maybe you're giving a twitch every minute or two. Like one cast you're looking at 10 minutes.
So for me,
Really?
well, hold on now.
10 minutes.
Back that up a hair.
Good God.
You want to fish at you're around fish, George. You're on fish.
That's what I was just going to say to you. So before you went and said 10 minutes,
You're around
which
fish.
is a long time,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
I was just getting ready to say, this is one of these techniques that we talk about all the time on here, where you need to know that you're around the right fish.
Agreed.
You know, I mean, if we are catching fish, quality fish on A, B, and C, and they stop biting because we've conditioned them,
Right.
we know we're around good fish. That's the only time you're going to do something like that.
Or it could be a weather change. A weather change. Let's say you found these fish and it was a little, you had a nice ripple on the water. Maybe you were cranking them over some grass or something like that. You came back the next morning and you brought Mike. You
They
said,
better
"Mike,
be good fish."
You can't believe how many fish I caught. And all of a sudden the conditions have changed and you can't get a bite on that crankbait. This is the style of bait you want to throw somewhere where you know there's fish. They will eat this bait.
How deep of water would you fish that in?
20, up to 20.
Oh,
No shit.
nice.
Yeah. Now me personally, I don't have the patience to fish any deeper than that. But 20, anywhere from 8 to 20 foot.
Really?
Which is
That's where
most
I'm
people's
like,
comfort zone.
Yeah.
Now, how about
God, that's painful. I thought spy baiting was painful.
huh?
Spy baiting is active compared to this.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
I don't know, man.
But
Well-
look, it's a deal where
Yeah.
you know you're on the bass.
Yeah,
You're
that's
on
right,
the bass.
right,
You're
right,
on the
right.
bass.
They're there and they're not biting.
I mean,
There's
we're
a
gonna have to
conditional
make a
change.
commitment. We're gonna have to make a commitment to
We
going out, getting on some fish,
Well, what's the
and
nice,
doing this.
nice thing was
We need to learn this.
Kurt gave us a bag each of those, so we're gonna have to throw them suckers.
Now the free rig, you don't have to know there's fish. You could find fish with the free rig.
Right, right.
Yeah, you're
It's not-
covering water.
that's
with that.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But with this guy,
I think anybody that relates to a Carolina rig can
Skeeter-
relate to a free rig.
I would agree
Skeeter
with
Steve
that.
was on that free rig a long time ago, and he
He was crushing fish.
kept
on
telling me about this thing. I'm like, I'm not doing it. Not
I mean,
doing it.
it took
Too many
over-
rigs.
Took over the camp.
Too many rigs.
It took it over.
And now, that's how reluctant I am to do this crap.
Well,
With the drop shot, took me forever to start drop
So-
shotting. This took me, blah, blah, blah. But we need to
We
jump
got work
on this
to do.
stuff. We need to jump on this stuff
we
quicker.
have work to do.
Quit being such hard.
We're old.
That's you see the trend in bass fishing. It is young, dude.
It is
Younger than it's
so
ever
hard.
been since ever. Period.
Yep.
I mean, we started in '69. That's when the whole tourney game
Yeah.
got kicked off, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, it is younger right now in the last 3 years than it has ever been in the history of the sport.
And you saw it today with like Larry Nixon coming up saying, "Man, I'm telling you right now, it's a young man's game out there today."
Well, that was a nasty day today.
Well, I mean, just saying.
The second half,
I'm just saying.
like getting home.
Yeah, getting home.
Yeah,
Well,
a lot of guys.
The
do.
service crews.
No, his deal was fishing in that type of weather. Those kids can fish in that type of weather,
That's right.
all day long. You saw even Brian, even Brian. I don't know why he didn't have a chair, but he didn't have a chair.
No, yeah, I actually saw a lot of guys no chair.
I know they're just standing there and just dealing with that balance issue all day long. And for
Brandon
guy-
Cobb had a chair.
yeah, and for a guy that doesn't, is
Well,
not,
it's nice to be able to
has
prop up on one.
more
in rough
aches and
water.
pains, that kind of thing. It's going to kick your ass. It's
Yeah.
going to take a toll on
Plus, when you're in rough water and you want to scan,
Yeah.
you're constantly doing this.
you. So you're all weights on one foot.
You're trying to- you're-
Hardcore scanners, no chair because they're standing up over top of
Yeah.
everything
Everything.
all
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
long.
But when it's rough,
Unbelievable.
on that pond,
Unbelievable.
you need to prop up.
You might see some more chairs tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right. Couple quick questions for Kurt Dove. Now, Kurt, was there anything else we wanted to talk about here
Man, I don't know. I'm
with,
just an
with
open
all your
book.
stuff right there? I mean, was
there's always more to talk about, but
Yeah.
I think we covered it great, man. We talked
like
a
it.
couple different
the
hooks.
point
like
is that Hayabusa is a very, very high quality hook. And it's a highly engineered hook. These are my takeaways.
Yes.
It's much more highly engineered than I realized. And I've been selling it for 2 years. And I fish it. I use them. George and I both use Hayabusa hooks.
I like them.
And it's a hook that there's no reason not to use it, but there's a ton of reasons to use it.
Yep.
that's different than everything else out there.
Yeah, I would agree. And we're continuing to develop new things and come out with new processes that will, get
Sure.
us going more here in the US. I think from a fundamentalist standpoint, you look at our price point and we're very competitive.
Very
with
competitive.
every other JDM,
Yeah.
if not a
No,
little bit better
it's-
by, from a price point standpoint. And from a quality standpoint, we're on par and better than many brands
lot
out
of them,
there.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I agree.
because they're putting the time and effort in the engineering.
I
just like
agree.
you mentioned, and the quality is there.
Well, it was cool that you showed us the some of the differences with those hooks, and it was just mind blowing.
Cool.
With the swim bait hook, and with the with the
Trailer hook.
trailer hook, unbelievable.
And they have, thankfully, Susquehanna Fishing Tackle
Yeah, we have 'em.
has a full selection.
And-
so come on in, check
and-
them out, touch
yeah.
them, feel them,
And our customers like them, and they fish them, and they buy a lot of them. And we're always running out of them, and it's just a great hook. It's an absolute hook. But a couple quick questions. For you.
Yeah. Throw down.
This is going to be quick, and then we're going to end the show.
You're gonna surprise me
we're
with
gonna
some
end the show on
crazy
this.
thing.
No, nothing crazy. But I like when I get guys like guys on here, especially live. We like to pop some questions at them. But what is your favorite technique if you were to pick one? If you go fishing, just to go fishing, and your favorite technique.
Anything I can do around grass.
Grass fishing.
Yeah, just straight up. Well, I learned when I was really young. Where there's grass, there's bass. And it doesn't matter what kind it is. The more I fish it, the more I understand it. Whether it's eel grass or like the Potomac River is clutch full, and the Upper Bay with that star grass now a lot of people are calling it. But milfoil,
I like milfoil.
Yeah, well, that's what I grew up on.
I like milfoil.
Yes, absolutely. The hydrilla, all of those things have a different time and place. And the reason I like it so much is because it's not technique specific.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's so many things that you can do to extract bites. But if there was one thing that I had to do for the rest of my life from a fishing technique standpoint, I mean, it's like cliche, but I throw a top water.
I knew it. I knew it.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
you see it. It's
I
visual. It's
know it.
everything. Come on. What's yours?
Bob,
A frog.
A frog.
Yeah.
There you go. Mike, what's yours?
mine. Buzzbait. I love
Okay, we're
throwing
all
a
in the
buzzbait.
same
Yeah,
boat.
you know
Yeah,
that.
he's a buzzbait freak.
I love throwing buzzbait. Bob Austin is asking, Kurt, straight shank or offset hook, flipping a Senko style bait.
It all depends on the cover. That's the key with your hook choice. I think it has much less to do with the style of bait that you're using and lots more to do with the cover. Straight shank hook, not hard cover, soft cover. And as much as you can have of it, really works well with a straight shank hook. The round bend hook, medium cover. The EWG, heavy cover.
Okay.
Like even if I'm fishing a large tree and I know the fish is in the middle of that tree, I'm going to go to an EWG because I'm going to be able to pitch it in there 100 times without getting hooked up, or excuse me, without getting hung up. Last thing you want to do is get hung up,
Right.
because now you've ruined the fishing
ruined the tree.
location. So it all really depends less on the bait and more about the cover.
There you go, Bob. And that's an excellent answer. That is a fantastic answer right there for you. Favorite boat.
Favorite boat. I am running a Ranger right now, and
You were a skier at one time, weren't you?
I've run a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Early in my career, I was spent 12 years with Triton. Then Triton, and every switch for me seems to be an ownership change, right? So I had these great relationships at Triton. Then Earl sold to Brunswick. Mercury bought
Yeah.
Triton there for a time, and then I had moved to Texas, and I started running a Skeeter. It was, kind of a relate.
Yeah.
I was there in
You
Texas.
have to.
Skeeter.
Yeah.
So
And you
then
drive a dually.
then yeah, it's exactly right. I got into a Ranger in 2015, 16 time frame. And man, I've been really happy with it. And who knows where I'm headed in the future. But
What model?
Right now, I think there's 5 boat companies.
There is
There's 5.
Bass Cat, Skeeter.
Bass Cat,
Ranger.
Skeeter, Ranger, Phoenix, of course.
Oh,
Phoenix,
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, at Phoenix
Phoenix went wild.
crazy.
I mean,
Yeah.
I remember when they first
Camus is still,
they're still getting
carving their niche.
Yeah.
What's been really surprising to me, if you jump in the boat conversation, is Vexus still hasn't really locked in yet. And there's been some time there.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they've got a great business plan. Those guys are no dummies.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's a half a dozen
there's a bunch of
high-end boats that are carving up that one piece. They have one piece of the pie. If it's a 7-slice pie, there's one slice belongs to 6 companies.
Yes.
If
I had to say, the thing that's interesting about boat companies is so many have become majorly corporate now. You've lost the connection. There is still one boat company where there is a connection with every
Skeeter
buyer. That is Bass Cat.
Skeeter too.
Skeeter to a degree.
If you're on the Skeeter team, you still talk to Joanne O'Brien.
Well, Joanne's gone now.
Yeah, you still get emails from her.
but yes. Joanne and I were tight for many years.
Yep.
That is correct. But I feel like from a fair, even though Bass Cat sold a Yarcraft 5 years ago or whatever it was, that is still like the family owned. Like if you call, they're like, "What's your whole number?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, you got the red cardinal white pinstripe, era, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
What's your I have this screw I lost. Oh, that's a 49628. We're gonna send that right out to you.
Yeah.
Like,
Phoenix is not like that. I kind of tend to think they might be like that.
They could be.
Yeah.
They could be. I just go, that's just my experience.
I think that Gary Klaus is like a people's guy.
Gary is cool. I've had a lot of cocktails with Gary.
He reminds me of the guy from Bass Cat.
Yeah, Rick Pierce.
Yes. Those two guys remind me a lot of each
They're on the
other.
same page. I would agree with that. Yes.
Okay, last question. What are you up to these days? What are you doing? Where are you going? What's happening?
Well, living in Del Rio, Texas, obviously we talked about that, down at Lake Amistad. And, in 2017, I jumped into this industry from a sales perspective and still fished FLW Tour. And I was fishing MLF Selects at the time. Where did that go? That was like another era.
Yeah.
But yeah, so now I'm still in the sales process and still heavily involved with Hayabusa and really enjoying my time there and what we're trying to do to create a quality hook company and, kind of extend the brand to let folks like the folks watching today and work with tackle shops like Susquehanna Fish and Tackle to let folks know about our brand. So that's a big part of my life. I work with youth. I do 3 camps, youth camps every year.
Yeah.
I'm big into, what's happening to the next generation and how their involvement is. What's going on in today's youth is, it used to be our fathers or grandfathers would pass us down this fishing road and we would decide to jump on it or not. And most of us, or all of us like-minded at this age, know we've jumped on that road. Now you have all these youth people that are figuring out about fishing through social media and YouTube, and mom and dad don't know squat about it, which is okay. I'm not saying that's bad, but we need to provide an avenue for those youth to be involved, because mom and dad doesn't always know how to get them involved. It's not like you drive down the road and see, there's T-ball league starting, in 2 months, and you call the number and sign up for T-ball, so that's really important to me, working with the youth. And so I do 3 camps a year, and I'm still dabbling in fishing tournaments. I'm fishing 5 or 6 events every year. Yes, it does depend on my schedule, but I'm trying to pick and choose where I go. Like I mentioned, I went to Havasu earlier this year and jacked the top 10 there. I was so stoked, and that was so much fun. And
that's great.
And then I came up here to my old haunts, and I've sucked in Champlain and St. Lawrence. I had a couple of tough derbies. I've been fishing that Toyota stuff, and I'm going back to Potomac in September. So
buddy, that's a terrible month.
Rekindle some.
Are you going to go out and fish the open
in the desert?
I don't know what lake it's going to be on.
So it's going to be on Mojave again this year. And
I guess the other one didn't fill up yet.
The last several falls I have fished the U.S. Open when it was on Lake Mead. And, it's like any fishery. When you don't know that much and you go and fish, you kick ass. because you're doing something that's just free.
Different.
Yeah. And totally different.
Before somebody tells you what you should be
That's
doing.
right. So the second year I went down there, I got a top 5 in the US Open. Oh, I had a good shot to win,
Which is pretty cool.
That is awesome.
I was in Nirvana. I was in Nirvana.
Yeah.
It was so cool.
You going to go out and fish it this year?
No, I'm not going to fish it this year. It's going to be back at Mojave, and I haven't fished Mojave, and I'm hoping it jumps back on Mead.
I thought Mead was filling up.
Mead is coming up, but not to the level where
Not where they want it yet.
Yeah, it probably needs another 15 feet, but it's coming. If I'm a big weather watcher. I think all fishermen are.
They are.
And we got this El Nino pattern that just redeveloped after 3 years of La Nina.
Yeah.
And it should bring more wet weather to my part of the country. Arizona, Southern Nevada, even up in the Colorado mountains.
Well, your lake needs to fill up.
Yeah, we're current. It's crazy. We go through such wild depth changes. Folks back east would not understand, but Lake Amistad right now is 50 foot low, and it's like, what 50? You have water? Like, it's still 120 foot deep.
Yeah.
I mean, it's deep, right?
Yeah.
But last fall it came up 30 foot. It jumped up 30 foot, and then since then it's been back down.
That's
20.
crazy.
Mike was asking earlier why, where is the water going?
Yeah.
And it's basically built for farms down south, and it's actually because we're on the border between Texas and Mexico. It is a treaty that they work with. So Mexico gets a certain amount of water, and most of the water that comes to Amistad, people don't know this, actually comes from Mexico. There's a huge river there, the Rio Concho, that comes from northern Mexico and runs north into the Rio Grande, and that is a heavy percentage of the water fluctuation in the Rio Grande.
Most of the water that filled Mead up was from snowmelt.
Yes. Yeah.
They had
that's
insane snow.
Well, it was coming down to Powell. Powell raised 70 feet.
Yeah.
Came up 70 feet, and now they're starting to pump some of that Powell water into Mead. And I haven't checked in probably about 2 weeks, but I'm a weather nut.
Yeah.
I check on that stuff, but it's been up like.
Well, if you were fishing a tournament, you'd probably be looking.
I would.
All right.
I got one more question for you, and then we're going to wrap this thing up. So you're from Virginia.
Yes.
You live in Texas.
Yes.
So I mean, are we talking Cowboys? I hope not. Sorry, Cowboys, Ravens, Redskins. I'm sorry, Commanders or whatever they're called.
No.
Or are you old school Eagles guy?
He's a Jets guy.
You're closest with the Eagles, but my
Jets guy.
My wife is from Western PA.
Oh,
Steelers.
Okay.
Yes, I'm a big Steeler fan.
Okay. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. They have a good team this year too.
Now, when I grew up, my
good
parents liked the Redskins. So, as a good son, I wanted the Cowboys to win. then as I kind of got a little bit older, I started following the Redskins a little bit, and then I just kind of got out of football a little bit. But when I married into Western PA,
forget about it. You're done.
It's over. It's over.
You can't like anything else.
Pirates and Steelers.
It's over.
Yeah, you can't,
it's over.
You can't do anything else.
Yep. Well, the Pirates had a good run for a little bit this year.
Yeah, they had a good first quarter of the season.
Steelers have a good team. Your wife's going to have a great football season.
We hope.
The Eagles are going to win everything, and
Jets are going to take everything, taking it all, baby.
Well, Kurt, thank you.
Yeah, dude, Kurt, enjoyed it, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kurt. Man, we appreciate
Thanks,
you.
Thanks, George. You bet.
Always great time talking with you and spending time with you.
Absolutely.
And next time you get in the area, maybe we can get you on for some smallies out here in the Susquehanna.
I'd love to do that.
If you get some extra time or whatever.
I'll be around this fall for a little while, so it might happen.
And I'm telling you, we got some banging smallmouth fishing out here.
Sounds fun.
It's banging.
Bring it.
All right, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the show tonight. And a special thank you again to Kurt Dove for stopping in. And thank you guys so much for stopping in. And
see you next week.
Hanging in with us.
Thank you guys so much.
With the power outage. And we'll see you the next time on Tackle Shop Live.
A sunny day, right there you took my breath away. A young and pretty, was it just a dream? The next day you called me up, you told me I'm your little buttercup. You came over and you fell into my arms. Well, I know what I feel. Please tell me your love is real. You make me smile when I think of you. If I am down or when I am blue, I can't get enough. You make me happy, I feel so fine. Oh, how I wish that you were mine. I can't get enough. I woke up all soaked in sweat, with chills running down my neck. I'm going crazy from just the thought of you.